Oh boy, did a lot happen today in the NFL. What's going on, football fans? What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch here, live with a full, in-depth breakdown of every single signing that happened in the NFL today on day one, March 11th. Of 2024. Join me live. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your reaction to the craziness from today's NFL free agency period. If you've been wondering, Mitch, where you been? I've been on Bleacher Report. 3 streams today on Bleacher Report. If you guys aren't already following me on BR, make sure to follow me. Make sure to get on Twitter/X because I tweet out every single stream. And that's where I've been all day. So it's time for the BLV. It's the nightcap with the BLV. And it's time to break down every signing of free agency. Gronk, spike the like button, guys. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. Let's say hello to the people in the chat. We got Kobe in the chat. Thoughts on the Pats re-signing Mike Onwenu. Just happened now. Yeah, I saw that. Quickly, because I don't really cover re-signings very often. But in terms of Mike Onwenu, happy. Kind of surprised when I saw it. I was pretty expecting him. Although, I saw Robert Hunt go somewhere. I saw the Giants sign a guard. I saw, some offensive needy teams, Tennessee, sign a center. Certain teams that you thought might go after Michael Onwenu. And as the day wore on, you felt like maybe it was more likely eventually New England would re-sign him. And that's what ended up happening. And it looks to be a pretty good contract for him. 3-year deal, which I think is interesting because he's still very young, which I think he wants to get to the open market once again. Perhaps still in his prime at his peak of play, but he's essential to the Patriots. Offensive line is essential to the Patriots, and getting him back is going to be a big deal for a young quarterback. And securing that offensive line, which was a weakness last year, and his ability to play tackle, his ability to play guard. It's flexibility and versatility that brings the strength to the Patriots' offensive line and allows them to find the best 5 for 2024 and beyond. He's been the best offensive lineman on the Patriots, in my opinion, for about 3 years. So it's nice to see him get that contract and nice to see him rewarded. But he's going to have to play to that contract, stay available, stay healthy, and protect our young quarterback, whoever that may be coming up. All right. What's going on, DJ? What's going on, Jake? Patrick Queen might want 20 a year. Nah, he's not getting that. Funky says, let's hear it. What's up, Funky? What's up, Tyler Drake? What's up, Caesar? What's up, Sing? Thank you guys for joining. Sing is not very happy right now. Caesar wants to hear about all the moves that the Cowboys made today. I'm going to give you a spoiler. None. The Jaguars made a ton of moves, though, Caesar, so we'll talk about the Jaguars. Dom's in the chat. He says, I'm here and so excited to do this again in 2 years. I'm pretty sure that Dom is Wave God, but I could be mistaken. Aaron says, what's up, Mitch? What's up, Aaron? How you doing, bro? All right. Introductions are over. Gronk spiked the damn like button. I got to talk about a cajillion different signings. So we've got to get down to business. I got my handy dandy phone right here, which is going to be vibrating like a madman because of all the signings that might be taking place. So I want to make sure that it doesn't do that. But I also need to read off of it because I have my notes. Hold on a second. See if I can actually get this settled here. All right. Hopefully that works, but I don't know. Let's start off with a massive trade that took place in New York. Because the Spider Burns, is headed to the Big Apple. You've heard of Spider-Man, but Giants fans need to get to know Spider Burns, because Brian Burns has been traded to the New York G-Men for a 2nd and a 5th round selection in this year's draft. The Giants have added a premier young edge rusher with all the tools in the toolbox to be one of the best in the game if he hasn't already proven that. A 5-year deal on top of the trade worth a max of $150 million with $87.5 million guaranteed. That is according to NFL Network. Brian the Spider Burns, he's going to team up with the big man Sexy Dexy in the middle, with Kayvon Thibodeau on the edge. The Giants were one of the worst edge rushing teams in pro football last year. They are shifting their defensive philosophy from one of Don Martindale, blitz heavy, blitz baby, and now it's shifting to the Tennessee Titans, which similarities but differences, right? So the new defensive coordinator of the Giants is the former defensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. They still like to be creative up front. They like to send simulated pressures. They like to blitz occasionally, but more relying on 4-man rush and talent up front. And with a guy like Brian Burns, that allows them to do that. Burns, I felt like, had a little bit of an underwhelming season last year, in my personal opinion. And hearing from Panthers fans, one of my best friends is a Panthers fan, he's not that upset, to be honest with you, that Brian Burns is gone. I don't know if he's just sour that they didn't take CJ Stroud and everything just masks that. But when you talk about Brian Burns, I've always been a massive fan from day one. You guys could probably find the video on my channel back when he was drafted. Before he was drafted, I did my edge rankings for that draft class, and Brian Burns was my favorite in the entire class because of his rare blend of bend on the edge, that ability to dip, get down and around the tackle and get to the quarterback, and the length, the long arms to strip the football, to grasp the quarterback, to get to the running back. And he's become a more refined and physical edge player against the run game. So now the front four looks like Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Nunez Roches, and Kayvon Thibodeau. They've also got Ojulari on the edge as well. So they're building that depth for the defense of Shane Bowen this season. Taking a look at some of the advanced stats and then also Brian Burns' statistics. Just taking a look at the numbers. He is 25 years old, in the prime of his career, and you can make an argument he maybe hasn't even hit his prime yet. So you're paying a 25-year-old pass rusher. I mean, you look at some of these pass rushers still playing in their 30s at a high level. You see a guy like Danielle Hunter, who's 29 now or 30 now, and he's like still putting up multiple sacks this season despite going through multiple big-time injuries. So these guys seem to last a long time. But Burns, from the beginning of his career, 7.5 sacks, 9 sacks, 9 sacks, 12.5 sacks, 8 sacks, pretty consistent. Quarterback hits, he had 18 this year. Tackles, he had 50. A two-time Pro Bowler in 2021 and 2022. His best season of his career, in my opinion, is the 12.5 sack season of 2022. But considering his age, considering the position, considering the consistencies of his stats, considering the consistencies of his production as a pass rusher, this is a pretty obvious deal. Once upon a time, a couple years ago, the Rams almost traded for Burns for 2 first-round picks, which makes the Panthers kind of look like a bunch of idiots. But it also makes the Giants look pretty good, considering that Burns got traded for the same compensation as an older defensive lineman in Leonard Williams. Now, if I were to bring up any negatives in terms of Brian Burns, I think I would point to maybe what PFF has to say about Brian Burns. Only ranking 37th this year, and he has never been graded particularly well by Pro Football Focus. Take that as a grain of salt. I only use that as an individual calculation or tally or stat. But, that is kind of odd to me that he's never really had a great grade. But that is not what a lot of people that actually watch the sport say about Brian Burns. So I wouldn't really be too concerned. But he's super athletic, good all around, young, everything you're looking for in an edge rusher. And it's been a while since the Giants have had a reliable edge rusher that can get to the quarterback and make a difference. So Burns has been traded for a second and a fifth. G-Men fans should be pumped about the new look of their defense up front. That's a massive move, guys. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't already. That's our first big move down for the night. Let's get to the next one. Also, our Swimmer says, if you were wondering why the Dolphins are signing linebackers, I was wondering because they don't need linebackers, okay? But the Dolphins are signing linebackers is because our linebacker depth chart, David Long, 1 year left, Channing Tindall, Duke Riley could be cut. It's an awful room without Brooks and Walker. Linebacker is not your biggest need. You need offensive line. You need cornerback. You need defensive line. Work on that, brother. I don't want none of this linebacker crap. Aaron Brewer has just signed, so we're going to have to add that as well to the list of stuff. But we will get to the next team. The next team on my list is the Detroit Lions. The Lions. I was wondering a little bit earlier today, who's been quiet? Those Detroit Lions. Where are they at? They have cap space. They let Jonah Jackson walk to the LA Rams, a big guard, big-time baller for them the last few years, young in the prime of his career. They obviously need a cornerback. They obviously could use a pass rusher. And then what do the Detroit Lions do? They line them up and they knock them down. Carlton Davis has been traded. The Tampa Bay Buccaneer cornerback, one of the BLV favorites of the past few seasons, has been traded to the Detroit Lions. The Lions are trading the second of their third-round picks for Carlton Davis, plus a 2024 sixth-round pick and a 2025 sixth-round pick that is in exchange along with Carlton Davis. So it's a third-round pick for Carlton Davis and 2 sixth-round selections in 2024 and 2025. So essentially, the value is about a fourth-rounder for Carlton Davis this year. He is in the last year of his contract, which hurts his value, obviously. He's making $14.5 million, which is pretty sustainable, pretty decent for a player such as Carlton Davis. He is a Super Bowl champion back in 2020, 2021 with Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, playing in Todd Bowles' defense for his entire career. Carlton Davis is one of my favorites, and the reason why is his play style. I really like how he plays, always have. He is a physical, aggressive, in-your-face cornerback who can really thrive in man-to-man coverage settings. Although in Tampa Bay, he's played a lot of zone coverage as well because of, the zone coverage hybrid type of looks that Todd Bowles' defense come with, where, they'll send people from everywhere. They'll drop people out from every direction. They'll have Vita Vea dropping from nose tackle to middle linebacker, things like that. So they play a lot of zone blitz concepts. They play some man coverage. They sprinkle in quarters coverage, zone coverage looks. But Carlton Davis has really been particularly good at the line of scrimmage in press coverage. Whenever he can get his hands on a wide receiver, that is when he's most effective. So whether that's in man press coverage or zone press coverage, he is really good at playing against physical receivers. His best games I've ever seen him play were against Michael Thomas, where he was able to manhandle him at the line of scrimmage, in the playoffs, where he was able to play against Jamar Chase, a big physical receiver. He tends to have issues against smaller, quicker receivers, but like a Cooper Kupp, for example. But when he's able to face an outside perimeter receiver with good size, he's able to lock that player down pretty effectively, even the best in football. So he is a little bit of a matchup guy. You can definitely use him as your number one corner and put him wherever you want on either side of the field and have him travel with certain receivers if you so wish. But he's certainly a massive upgrade for Detroit, who needed a massive addition to their secondary, and I think they got a very, very good player. I wouldn't call Carlton Davis an elite corner, but I've ranked him in my top 20 corners in the NFL for the past 3 years in a row, so that kind of gives you a good sign of kind of what he is. So he's a number one corner. He's better than what you got last year in free agency to be your number one corner. He is 27 right now, and he's going to be 28 in late December, actually on New Year's Eve, which is funny. Last year, he had 2 picks in 12 games. He does tend to miss a few games every year. He's never actually started a full season. He's played at most 14 games in a year. He's played at the least 10 games in a year, which was 2021. But when he's on the field, he's a good player and a good coverage player, and he can play in man or zone coverage. But I do like his skills specifically in man press coverage. I always have the most in that regard. So Carlton Davis, very good winner, proven winner, been there, done that, physical, still near the prime of his career, not too old. He's not 30 yet. He's 27, 28. And he's a good fit for Detroit. I think he's a very good fit for Detroit. Once I saw the trade, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of what they want their corners to be, right? They don't fear receivers running past them. They're about getting in the receiver's face. They're about disrupting their rhythm at the line of scrimmage. They're about having versatility in man and zone coverage. They're about blitzing, just like the Bucs are. So it does make sense in a lot of different ways. And Aaron Glenn, I believe, was formerly with the Saints, so he probably saw a little bit of Carlton Davis when he was with the Saints, having played him twice a year in the division. So there's a lot that makes sense in terms of this trade. So I really like this trade for the Lions. I think in terms of the Bucs, it's pretty fair compensation, about a third round pick for Carlton Davis. You get some money this year, $14 million to spend on the rest of your roster. It's pretty fair. I would say this is a good trade for both sides overall. We'll see what the Bucs are able to do with that draft pick, but they're able to replenish some of their roster elsewhere, potentially maybe work on the front seven, the edge rushers, or potentially safety, maybe even going younger at corner, saving some money, maybe going a little bit cheaper at corner, maybe using it on offensive line. There's a lot of different areas the Bucs could potentially upgrade, but it's a good move for the Lions. The other move that the Lions made today, they added a pass rusher, former first-round pick of the New Orleans Saints. We thought that the Lions might go after a New Orleans Saint, given the background of the coaching staff that they have. Marcus Davenport signed a 1-year deal this year with the Lions. He played a little bit with the Vikings last year. He ended up getting injured, which has been an issue for Davenport. He's gotten hurt a lot. So these two moves do have a little bit in common in terms of these two guys. While Carlton Davis has been able to finish every season and play every season without missing a long-term season, Marcus Davenport also has been banged up a lot and injured a lot throughout his young career. But former first-round pick of the Saints, he signed a 1-year, $10.5 million on its max, $6.5 million base salary. Davenport has always had a ton of upside, and at times he's looked like a really good player. So this isn't just a case of a former first-round pick that has upside but has never really flashed anything. There's actually been times where Davenport has proven to be a really good player, specifically 2021. At 25 years old, he had 9 sacks in 9 starts, 11 games in total. He had 4.5 and 6 sacks in his first 2 seasons in the NFL in 2018 and 2019. But otherwise, he has dealt with a lot of injuries, and he has not consistently had sack production. But what I think of him is he's a player that the front office knows, that the coaching staff knows, that perhaps they understand how to coach him up, how to get the best out of him in Detroit. He fits the mold of the type of edge rushers that the Lions look for in terms of big, physical, fast freaks. They're not exactly bendy players, but they're better in terms of their power usage and their ability to use their hands to go from speed to power and push back linemen into the face of the quarterback, right? When you think of Aiden Hutchinson, you don't think of Von Miller, right? You think of a guy that is really good at using his hands to get inside or out and be able to beat the tackle or be able to rush with speed to power to transition to push the lineman back. It's similar with Marcus Davenport. He's good against the run. He's gritty in that facet, but he's got to stay healthy. I think he could use a little bit of coaching, but he's a good fit for the Lions' defensive scheme, given that he's played a majority of his career in New Orleans and been pretty good in New Orleans and was signed to, I think, a better contract than this last year by the Vikings. So perhaps a bit of value here, a value signing for the Lions. It's not going to kill them in any way, shape, or form if it doesn't work out. Again, former first-round pick Marcus Davenport signs with the Lions, 27 years of age, turning 28 on my birthday. He has the same birthday as me. Whoa, that's awesome. I didn't even know that. Sick. September 4th, 1996. Shout out to Marcus Davenport. Gronk spiked the like button, baby. All right, the Lions are done. Next up, we're going to go with the Jacksonville Jags because I don't know if you guys heard, but the Jacksonville Jags signed literally everybody today. They signed like 15 different guys. Special teams, offense, defense, doesn't matter. The Jacksonville Jags were active early and they were active often for NFL free agency. The Jags, first of all, signed center Mitch Morse of the Buffalo Bills. A 2-year, $10.5 million deal. And guys, I have to say this really quick. Do you ever have those moments of deja vu? Like, bro, I just swear to you, I just had the weirdest sense that I like dreamed this or something. I don't know why I would dream about Mitch Morse signing with the Jacksonville Jags. I guess Mitch Morse has the same name as me, but there is no other occurrence where I would even think of this. I don't care. Bro, I literally think I dreamt that Mitch Morse was going to sign with the Jacksonville Jets. This is the weirdest thing I've ever uncovered on YouTube ever. But anyways, okay, we also have breaking news that I see on Twitter. But that's a tangent right there, bro. That is so weird. Anyways, Mitch Morse has signed with the Jacksonville Jags. He was the first signing for Jacksonville, and he played 17 games last year, started every single one. He's a veteran. He's played with the Chiefs for 4 seasons. He played with the Bills since 2019 throughout the course of Josh Allen's career, signing a 2-year, $10.5 million deal. He was a Pro Bowler in 2022. Mitch Morse is older. He's a veteran. He's born in 92, which means he's 31 years old. He is turning 32 in April. So yeah, he's an older guy. He's a veteran. But Mitch Morse is still a good player. He's been a good center for a while now. And specifically last year, I thought he looked really good in the run game. I thought that he was a big reason the Bills' running game really got going near the end of the year. And he's a really good, still active, a little bit smaller in stature, right? He is he's tall, but he's 305. So he's not exactly the beefiest guy in the world. But he moves very well for his size, and he's able to get out in space in the running game. He's also very experienced in pass protection and has been able to protect among one of the better offensive lines last year in Buffalo. So Jacksonville, just checking his PFF grade from last year, they graded him as the 20th best center in football, which sounds about right. And throughout the course of his career, the last 3 years in a row, he's ranked around 20th, 21st, 24th, 24th. The years before that, he was 16th in 2016 with the Chiefs, 2018, 14th, 2019, 17th. So he's dipped a little bit in terms of his play, but he's still a very capable starting center in this league. The Bills decided to move on due to the contract, the age, the ability to be flexible with money, but it's still a good signing. The Jags desperately needed a center to protect Trevor Lawrence. The next signing that Jacksonville made was another Buffalo Bill, funny enough. Gabe Davis agreed to a contract with the Jags. 3 years, $39 million with incentives that could reach $50 million. Personally, this is not my favorite move of free agency. I am not a Gabe Davis guy. You guys know I'm not going to sugarcoat you. If I like a move, I like a move. If I don't like a move, I don't like a move. But I would not be a general manager out there to sign Gabe Davis. I am not a Gabe Davis guy. Now, that being said, Gabe Davis has been extremely productive at times in his career, right? He is a big play threat. He is a big receiver, and he can run. And those are always valuable in the NFL. 6'2", 225. He's got girth, size to him. He's 6'2", and he runs fast, and he can get vertical quickly. Yards per reception has always been high for him. 17 in his rookie season, 15 in his second season, 17 in his third season, 16.6 last year. Last year, 45 catches for 746 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's consistently put up 7 touchdowns throughout the course of his career. 7 in 2020, 6 in 2021, 7 and 7 in 2022 and 2023. He's a touchdown scorer. He's a vertical playmaker. He is a linear athlete. He goes straight. He is not a guy that's a wicked route runner that can change direction. He's not a slot receiver. He plays on the outside and he runs vertical. Now that's good for Trevor Lawrence because Trevor Lawrence, he likes big receivers with a big catch radius that can catch the ball on back shoulders that can get down the field. This does add speed. This helps relieve Christian Kirk potentially off of a knee injury. And this also replaces Calvin Ridley, right? Calvin Ridley is maybe a little bit smaller than Gabriel Davis. They tried to make Calvin Ridley an X receiver on the outside and just let him work on the outside running routes and getting off the line and getting off the jam. Gabe Davis can actually fulfill that role with real prototype size and speed. He's not going to be the main threat of the offense, though, but he can make plays when his number is called. So, not my favorite receiver, not my favorite guy in the world, but he is what he is. I think the reason why people are maybe a little bit down on Gabe Davis is he never took that step that was expected of him as the number 2 of the Bills. He just is what he is. He's about a 700-yard receiver. He's not a 900, 1,000-yard receiver. He's just never quite gotten there. But I do think he'll be a solid addition and a solid replacement for Calvin Ridley. I just wouldn't expect the next great receiver from Gabe Davis, but a solid number 3 / low-end number 2 type of receiver that primarily plays on the outside and is coming off his 2 best seasons of his career. So Jacksonville signs Gabe Davis. Then next, we've got Darnell Savage, who I like this signing quite a bit of Jacksonville. I am a Darnell Savage fan. Now, here's the thing with both Savage and Gabe Davis, okay? Both are inconsistent players. They're not the most consistent players, but when they are balling, they are balling. Like, when they're on their game, they look like the best player on the field. So that's the same thing with Darnell Savage, who is a former first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers. He is a 1997, so he is 26 years of age. Born in July 30th. He has had an up and down and rocky relationship with Packer fans, such as Deshaun in my chat right now. But last year, he started 10 games, played 10 games, 51 tackles, no picks. He has been up and down. His best season of his career was 2020 with 4 interceptions in 15 games and 75 tackles, where he did rank inside my top 30 safeties in football. But he's just been up and down, man. Sometimes he allows too many big plays, but a potential change in system, a change in atmosphere, a change in, location, all that sort of stuff might be good for his career. But what I've really liked about Darnell Savage all the time is his physical tools. He's got a lot of range because he's got great speed. He ran in the 4.3s, which is part of the reason he went in the first round. He can cover a lot of ground. He does, have the ability to play true free safety and be able to track the ball down. He's, I would say, a more inconsistent tackler than you would like overall. But last year, according to PFF, was one of his better graded seasons of his career. He is only 5'11", but like I said, he's pretty fast. Not quite 200 pounds at 198. 75.5 PFF grade, which was 15th in the NFL. That's pretty good. That's his best season according to PFF's rankings. 2020 was 17th according to their rankings. Last year, he played 429 free safety snaps, which is the most out of all snaps. He played 147 in the box and 109 at slot corner. So he's most effective at free safety. And maybe he'll play a little bit more in the box this year, though, given that they have Andre Sisco. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to operate or if they just want to play more too high. But that'll be fascinating to watch. I like Savage quite a bit. I like that he still has a lot of upside in this signing. Next up, Ronald Darby was also signed by the Jacksonville Jags. Ronald Darby is a reliable veteran perimeter corner. And they just let go of Darius Williams, which is fascinating because they're both similar age, similar build, similar players. More zone corners than man corners. Darby, 2 years, $10 million max is super cheap, in my opinion. And he played really well last year for the Baltimore Ravens. The question about Darby is he a starter or is he just a guy that can rotate in at this point in his career? Because that's kind of what he did in Baltimore. He wasn't a true starter. When Marlon Humphrey was hurt or somebody else was hurt, Brandon Stevens, he would fill in and he would play. But he would play at a high level. He graded as the 36th best corner in football last year, which is very solid. And throughout the course of his career, he's always had very high PFF grades. 2015, 16th, 2016, 38th, 2017, 22nd, 28th, 39th. He had one bad year in 2019, but regardless, 28th in 2020. Last year, he was pretty solid. So, I mean, overall, pretty good player. He plays wide cornerback, 5'11", 4.38 speed at 5'11", and he is a little bit older. I think he's about 30 years old. So he's near the end of his run here in the NFL, but he's only signed to a 2-year deal. And I like that they went after a guy like Ronald Darby, who's got a pretty safe floor to replace Darius Williams, but get a lot of money back in return to use on other positions. So I think that's a very savvy and smart signing by Jacksonville, personally. And the last couple of signings by Jacksonville were utilized on special teams. They signed a kicker, Will Lutz, to a 3-year deal. Personally, not my favorite kicker. I don't think he's very good anymore. I don't know. Not that I really follow statistics for kickers, but I remember him in New Orleans 2 years ago, and he was trash. And the last few years, he hasn't exactly been great. You look at his percentage. 88% last year is not bad. 74% 2 years ago. 82% 3 years ago. 88% 4 years ago. Had his best season in 2018 or 2017. He was actually a good kicker back then, where he actually led the NFL in extra points made and extra points attempted, but also kicked 93% in 2018. So he's been in the NFL and he's been a kicker for a long time and he's been consistent. He's not bad by any means. Like, you're not going to go out there and get Chad Ryland, but he's not Adam Vinatieri in his prime, right? So 30 for 34 last year. 2 of his misses were from 50 yards. So pretty decent season for him last year, but you have to figure he did play in Denver. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. He played in Denver. He didn't play in New Orleans. But he's played in a dome. He's played outdoors. He's played in both. So that's good. And then Devin Duvernay was their final signing. 2 years, $8.5 million base. $12.5 million. That's a receiver, a depth receiver that can also return the football. All-pro special teams player, Devin Duvernay. I've always liked him. I think he's a solid depth receiver, a number 4 in the NFL that can do a lot for your offense. Kind of think Jamal Agnew. That's what he is, Jamal Agnew, right? He can run end arounds. I think he's a slightly better receiver. He can run better routes. He can run from the slot. He's fast. He's electric in the return game. And he'll bring juice to the special teams. He'll bring juice to the offense. And Doug Peterson likes to run a lot of those RPOs, a lot of those yards after catch, possible screen plays. Duvernay will fit very well in that type of offense. So those are all the Jacksonville signings. I know there were a lot, but I think a lot of them are quality. The one that I like the least is Gabe Davis. The one I like the most, I think is probably Darnell Savage. I didn't quite get, let's see if I can look it up just so I can get it for you guys. I didn't see the compensation for Savage. Let's see if I can find the compensation. I just like Savage's upside, and he did play well last year when he was on the field. I can't find the compensation, but you guys will know shortly. That's probably my favorite. Gabe Davis probably my least favorite. Mitch Morse is a solid signing overall, and Ronald Darby is a very savvy signing. So those are the signings from Jacksonville. Now, taking a quick break from what I was going to go to in regular scheduled programming. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, Gronk spiked the like button. I see that we have some news. So let's look at Twitter. What's going on? Leonard Williams has reached an agreement with the Seattle Seahawks to return to the Seahawks. Congratulations to Leonard Williams. He is a baller. Congratulations to the Seahawks for getting back one of their better defensive players. He will be the Justin Mata BK of the Mike McDonald defense. So that's a nice little signing for them. Not little, big boy, Leonard Williams. And then you've got, by the way, it was 3 years, $21.5 million per year. And then you've also got a New England Patriot update. The New England Patriots, my New England Patriots, your New England Patriots, have signed Jacoby Brissett at the quarterback position. Jacoby Brissett has signed a 1-year, $8 million deal worth up to $12 million to be the starting quarterback of your New England Patriots in 2024. And as a Pats fan, I'm pumped because I like Jacoby. I like Jacoby Brissett. I've been saying for years when he was on Cleveland and Indianapolis that Jacoby Brissett is underrated. I said last year, why is this guy not playing? I don't understand how Sam Howell is playing over this guy when every time Sam Howell gets hurt or sucks, Jacoby goes in and he plays better than him. Put him in, coach. So Jacoby Brissett at 31 years old, turning 32 in December, has been around the NFL as a bridge quarterback and a high-end backup. And recently, he's been playing the best football of his career. People may recall that he started not once, but twice for the Indianapolis Colts in 2017 and 2019. He won 4 out of 15 games in 2017 as a second-year pro when he was traded from New England to the Colts to start that year. And he had 13 touchdowns to 7 picks. He was sacked a league-high 52 times as a second-year pro. Since then, he's gotten a lot better, but that was a tough situation for him. I believe with the whole Andrew Luck scenario there in Indianapolis. Then a couple years later, he gets back the job in Indianapolis and actually plays pretty well to the point where they win 7 games out of 15. So he played 15, he won 7, he was 7-8. And he throws 18 touchdowns to only 6 picks, 2,900 yards, and is a good game manager. 2 fourth-quarter comebacks, 2 game-winning drives that year, and nearly makes the playoffs, or at least competes, and gives them a solid season. That was still going through the whole Andrew Luck scenario there in Indianapolis. Then he doesn't really play in Indy in 2020. Then he moves to Miami in an up-and-coming team with the Dolphins in 2021. He goes 2-3 with the Dolphins. I believe replacing Tua, an injured Tua in that year, going 2-3, throwing 5 touchdowns and 4 picks, and 1,283 yards, a 62.7 completion percentage. But his best football has been the last 2 years. I was impressed with him last year with the Browns. He was a 4-7 player as the quarterback with that team. 64% completion, 12 touchdowns to 6 picks. His best yards per attempt of his career until this last year at 7.1. And overall, 2 game-winning drives, 2 fourth-quarter comebacks. When you would watch him play, operating an offense off of play action in the running game, play calling from Alex Van Pelt. That is the offensive coordinator of the Patriots now, with Nick Chubb in the backfield and Amari Cooper, I believe, at receiver. Or at least, I don't know if that was last year or this year. But regardless, Jacoby Brissett was productive. He goes to be a bridge quarterback / high-end backup for Washington once again. And this past year, he doesn't get any starts. He comes in for Sam Howell near the end of games. 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 18 for 23, 224 yards, 9.7 yards per attempt. He was lighting it on fire when he got a chance. But Jacoby is a great bridge option because he's great in the locker room. He's got a great personality. He understands the Patriots' history. He was there for it. He understands the culture. He knows some of the people in the locker room. He knows Gerard Mayo. He knows the offense very well. He's proven that he can play at a pretty good level in the offense. He's got a hint of mobility. He's really good at quarterback sneaks. He's got really good size. He's got deceptively strong, arm strength, like a pretty strong arm. So he could play in the elements in New England or in the Northeast. And I think he'll be able to operate Van Pelt's offense with Stevenson and Gibson in the backfield running the football and a strong defense on the other side. I think this is a quarterback that can bring you competency, that can bring you a competitive team in 2024, regardless of if they believe he's just a bridge option or if they believe, he is going to be the backup. Regardless, that will mean rather the rookie is so good that they're forced to play him, or that he is going to be the guy for the year and they're going to be able to tutor the quarterback. So I would expect Brissett to play this year as the starter of the Patriots and for them to potentially move on from him next year, or maybe he'll resign next year as the backup. He also gives me vibes in terms of being a mentor to a young quarterback. Because of his personality. He seems like a guy having played in a lot of different, organizations, franchises, teams, a lot of different offensive schemes that he could be able to tutor and teach a young quarterback the game of football in the NFL. So there's a lot to like about Jacoby Brissett coming to New England. That was the projected ad. That was the predicted ad by myself and a lot of others. And that's end up what happens here. Jacoby Brissett to the Patriots. I like it a lot. I'm a fan of Jacoby. He's easy to root for. No problems with it whatsoever. And I would definitely agree with JC that he is better than Mac Jones, at least the last year or two. I think he's outplayed Mac Jones the last year or two. So, yeah, I would agree with that. The other signing that the Patriots made, just to collectively get through the New England Patriots here, and so that I can stop talking and going on and on about my team, Antonio Gibson was signed by the New England Patriots today, and I brought him up already. Gibson is a running back, formerly of the Commanders, signed a 3-year deal, $11.25 million, including $5.3 fully guaranteed. This is one of the most low-key signings of the day. I am a big fan of this signing. I didn't think New England would be looking at Gibson, but then once I thought about the signing, I thought it made a lot of sense for previous regime reasons and also new regime reasons. So I think a lot of the previous regime reasons people are going to point out that you've probably already heard if you're a Patriots fan. He's a wide receiver turned running back. He played wide receiver in college football, turned into a running back in pro football. And he became a really productive one in the first 2 years of his career at Washington. He ran for 795 yards in his rookie campaign for 11 touchdowns and 4.7 yards per carry. That's a really good season in the NFL. On only 170 attempts, by the way. He also caught 36 catches for 247 yards in his first season with Washington. That was 2020 at 22 years old in 2020. Then, in his second season at 23 years old, he had 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards, 37 yards that year, 7 touchdowns. He caught 42 passes for 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's 10 total touchdowns in his second year, 11 touchdowns in his first year. That's 21 touchdowns in 2 years. That's 1,700 yards in 2 seasons on the ground. And that's, nearly 80 catches in 2 seasons and nearly 500 yards. So, very productive player in his first 2 seasons. Then, once you get to his third year, he drops off for whatever reason. They don't use him as much for whatever reason. Okay, maybe he was less productive. Maybe he wasn't as good. Maybe he took too much wear and tear. I'm not exactly sure, right? 546 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3.7 yards per carry in 2022 for an awful Commanders team. But he did catch the most catches of his career, 46, for 353 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then he surpassed that this year with 48 catches for 389 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 265 yards and 1 touchdown this year on the ground. So not utilized as much on the ground, kind of like a James White the last 2 years, where he's a former receiver turned running back, can run great routes, can get actually vertical from the running back position because he is a refined route runner at the wide receiver position, turning those routes vertical, getting down the field, running wheel routes, option routes out of the backfield. He's good in the screen game, little swing passes, good on yards after catch. But what I love about this for the new regime is that he's fast and he fits a zone running scheme. He is 6'2", which is very tall for a running back, which is kind of similar to Stevenson. But he is fast. Like, when you see him go, you can see wide receiver speed. I'm just going to look up his 40 time right now, but I know for a fact that it's like low 4.4s, I want to say. He's fast. 4.39. So, yeah, he's really fast. At 228 pounds, 6'2", he ran a 4.39. So that was when he was a rookie, but still, I mean, in a zone scheme where it's one cut and go, the ability to just hit that hole, kind of like a Raheem Mostert style of player, that's what Antonio Gibson is. Catch the football, 8 to 10 carries a game to relieve Stevenson, highly efficient player. That is a perfect signing for the Patriots. Perfect. Love it. Think it's unreal. Thought he might have gone to like Cleveland or thought he might have gone to the Cowboys, somebody like that. But he ends up going to the Patriots. So I'm happy about it. Been a Gibson fan. Just kind of wondering what's happened to him the last couple of years. But we'll see him in New England. We have a couple new signings as well that have taken place. Jordan Hicks is signed with the Browns, so I'll have to talk about that potentially. The Niners have also signed another defensive end, so I might as well throw that onto the other defensive end signing from the 49ers. If you guys haven't already, make sure to Gronk spike the like button, baby, and show your love. If anyone's curious, I will be adding chapters to this live stream so that when people watch it, they can go through it for their team or whatever they're looking for. I'll also probably be releasing separate videos from this stream on the channel. So if you missed anything, you can check those out there. I don't know how many, but we'll see. All right, let's get to the 49ers because they signed 2 pass rushers. So just going to look up. 2 Yetur Gross-Matos. All right. Okay. The 49ers. Man, do they love their defensive ends. They have signed not 1, but 2 pass rushers from the edge. One is very familiar with Brandon Staley. His name is Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd played with the Buffalo Bills last year and had the most sacks of his NFL career. He has had 4 straight 9+ sack seasons in the NFL. He has signed a 2-year, $20 million, perhaps up to $25 million contract. Floyd appeared in all 17 games this past year and had 10.5 sacks for the Bills, was their most productive sacker of the quarterback. They also signed Yetur Gross-Matos of the Carolina Panthers, a former second-round pick of the Panthers, on a 2-year deal worth up to $18 million. Yetur, 6'5", 265, absolute freak physically. Gonna be fascinating to see how they utilize him in terms of the coaching of San Francisco's defensive line, which has always been extremely strong, one of the best position coaches in football. He had his most successful season of his career at 4.5 sacks, 36 tackles in only 12 games. So maybe they see some flashes there that they really very much like in Yetur Gross-Matos. He was a second-round pick at 38th overall, and I remember him getting buzz for being a first-round pick potentially because of his physical tools. He has all the tools to be a really good pass rusher. But he's long, he's big, he's fast, and a lot of people, I remember, were trying to compare him to Danielle Hunter because of his measurables. He was graded as the 60th best edge rusher in football last year on 465 defensive snaps. So overall, pretty solid for a depth edge rusher. And then when you look at Leonard Floyd, the marquee signing for the 49ers, I'm a fan of Leonard Floyd. He was actually graded at 86th by PFF on 627 snaps, 624 on the defensive line. Throughout his career, PFF has not been the biggest fan of Leonard Floyd, 6'5", 240. He is not the biggest. He has played stand-up, kind of edge rusher 3-4 type guy, along with Khalil Mack in Chicago with Brandon Staley, when that's the crossover effect from Brandon Staley. But he also has played hand in the dirt with Buffalo a lot, which he will be doing with the 49ers. He also played with the Rams with Brandon Staley in 2020, where he had 10.5 sacks and 55 tackles. That was probably the peak of his career when he was 28 years old. He is now 31 going on 32. So he will be 32 on September 8th. 10.5 sacks, 32 tackles last year. Very productive player. And according to Pro Football Reference, had 25 pressures last year. So I think Leonard Floyd is probably a better pass rusher or overall player than Chase Young. Chase Young is younger. Chase Young has more potential. Chase Young ceiling is higher at this point, obviously. But Floyd has been extremely consistent and productive. And as a number 2 pass rusher, he's always been a terror. He's got great length to him, extremely long arms. He's able to utilize that to set the edge well. And I think that will really help one of the Niners' biggest weaknesses, which is setting the edge. And then as a number 2 pass rusher, he's going to be able to thrive opposite Nick Bosa and with Javon Hargrave on the D-line. And I like the addition of Yetur Gross-Matos, who is going to be a guy that they can build up and potentially get a lot out of in rotation on their defensive line. So instead of going out and signing one big defensive lineman to a bunch of money, they go out and they sign 2 for maybe a little bit less. I particularly like the value of Leonard Floyd at 2 years, $25 million. $20 to $25 million. So the Niners find 2 edge rushers to put on that nice defensive line for 2024 and help them win that Super Bowl, that elusive Super Bowl. What's up, Edgar? He said, what's up, Edgar? How you doing, bro? Let's give Edgar our Raiders. Let's give Edgar our Raiders. What do we got here? Raiders! Let's check Twitter in case I missed anything. The Patriots are signing another player. Okie dokie artichoke. A linebacker. Taki. He was on my undervalued list. Jordan Hicks is signing with the Browns. Maybe I could transition that one to the other potentially here. Let me know in the chat where you guys want me to go next so that I understand what team you want me to talk about. Okay. So the Chiefs signed a punter, by the way. Let's talk about the linebackers. Did the Browns sign anybody else today? They just re-signed people, right? I don't think they signed anybody else. Let me just check my notes because I like to talk about them together so that I don't have to do it multiple times. Browns. I don't see any on my list. I don't think so. Okay. All right. I don't even know how to say the dude's first name that signed with the Patriots. I've never been able to pronounce his name. Anyways, let's start with Jordan Hicks. Okay. Let's get to Pro Football Reference. The Cleveland Browns have made a decision at linebacker. Jordan Hicks, a vet, one of the most consistent linebackers in all facets, has signed with the Browns. One of Mr. Schwartz's favorites from back in his Eagles days. Went to a Super Bowl as the middle linebacker of the Philadelphia Eagles in Schwartz's defense, and now he might very well do the same in Cleveland. Jordan Hicks is now 31 years old, turning 32 in June. He's coming off a major injury, but let's not take away what he was able to do last year for Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. And the last couple of years, he's been a really good player. And I just don't think he ever gets enough credit. He has always been very, very, very quality. Last year, he had 107 tackles in 13 games. Guys, he had a touchdown, 2 fumble recoveries. He had a sack, an interception. He was an all-around terror for the Minnesota Vikings defense. He provides a lot. He is very smart. He can call the defense. He can call the checks and balances of the defense. He can make sure you're in the right play. He's a really good downhill linebacker at stopping the run and blitzing. The question for him will be, how does he come off of the injury and look in terms of his coverage capabilities? That is interesting. So they move on from Taki, or Taki. I don't know how to say his name, but he went to my Patriots. Jordan Hicks is more of a for sure thing. I think he gives a little bit more of a veteran stability, higher IQ player, and he's able to be potentially a nice complement to what they have in JOK at the linebacker level for the Cleveland Browns. So very solid veteran signing for the Cleveland Browns. Just checking out some of his Pro Football Focus grading. He, last year, was the 22nd graded linebacker in football. He played 665 snaps in the box, 121 on the defensive line. The last couple of years, 28th in 2021, 34th in 2022. He was a borderline top 10 linebacker in football in 2015, 2016, grading 10th and 3rd in those seasons, and 10th in 2018. So, Jordan Hicks, a good player. Has been for a long time. My New England Patriots have taken one of the Cleveland Browns linebackers, Taki, or Taki. We got to figure out how to say his name if we're going to cheer for the guy. But what I know is that he is a very well-respected player among the Cleveland locker room over the past few years, and a leader at that linebacker position. 608 snaps, graded 32nd in the NFL by PFF last year at linebacker, 36th the year before. He is mostly known for his coverage ability. He is a little bit smaller than a typical Patriot linebacker at 6'1", 238. Almost the exact same size as Jordan Hicks, who the Browns just signed, 6'1", 236. Almost identical. 6'1", 238. He's known for his coverage skills. PFF graded him at a 70.2 in terms of his coverage grade, which overall ranks 22nd out of 77 linebackers. So that's something to think of. He's potentially a Mack Wilson replacement for the Patriots defense, another Cleveland Brown former linebacker. He went to BYU, is a 1995, meaning he is 29 potentially this year, 28 right now, 29 in the future. Solid signing by the Patriots. It's a solid linebacker, not going to be super expensive, takes the role of Mack Wilson, good in coverage, and I think really well respected by Cleveland. So going to be good in the locker room. Gerard Mayo adds to his linebackers. You know that he's going to be all about them because he is a linebacker. So, Taki is a Patriot. I'm just going to call him Taki because that's more fun. Malia's in the chat. Who's the QB for the Patriots? What's up, Malia? How you doing? It's Jacoby Brissett right now. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Noah Brown back with the Texans. That's cool. I like that. By the way, the Patriots signing 2 years, $6.5 million deal that can be worth up to $10 million with some likely incentives. Very solid. Very solid. Okay. Let's move on. What did you guys want me to talk about? The Eagles? Big Al? You want me to talk about the Eagles or you want to wait, Big Al? Or should I just continue talking about linebackers? We got the Dolphins who signed a couple linebackers. Let's talk about the Dolphins because they just keep signing linebackers for some reason. Hold on. Did I miss one of them, though? Feel like I might have missed one of the signings. Oh, right. They signed Aaron Brewer as well, so I'll talk about that. Okay. What's everybody doing? Gronk spiked the like button. Let's go Miami here. Let's talk about Anthony Walker, Jordan Brooks, and Aaron Brewer. Okay. The Miami Dolphins were going to be a massive loser of free agency. And so far, I'm not going to lie, you guys probably still are. But that being said, don't click out of this video quite yet. The Miami Dolphins have fixed their linebacker position and potentially added a starting center for 2024 and beyond. They have signed 2 linebackers, Anthony Walker of the Browns, Jordan Brooks of the Seattle Seahawks, and a center from the Tennessee Titans named Aaron Brewer. Now, diving into this, Miami, for whatever reason, decided to put all their money into linebackers this offseason, which is fascinating. Now, David Long Jr. is still on the roster. I'm not sure what his future will be, but now they have 3 very respectable linebackers. Jerome Baker, they were forced to cut due to cap reasons. Jordan Brooks will now be a linebacker for them, and Anthony Walker will now be a linebacker for them for Anthony Weaver's defense coming from Baltimore. Anthony Weaver is. So, understanding that, well, Anthony Weaver saw what Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith were able to do for that defense for Mike McDonald. Linebackers in the middle of the field and coverage in the middle of the field is essential. Now, that being said, I know that that's a strength for Anthony Walker. I'm not so sure that's a strength for Jordan Brooks, especially coming off a major injury. But I really like the Anthony Walker potential addition here. He is coming off of, I believe, an injury as well, Anthony Walker is. He played 12 games last year, 44 tackles, 4 passes defensed. He's been a solid linebacker for a number of years. He played in Cleveland the last 3 seasons in a row, pretty much on 1-year deals every single year, but has played well every single year for them. He's good in coverage. He moves very well. Hopefully after the injury, he still moves very well. He's a Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate, very strong off-the-field personality, good leader. He is a little bit older. He is 28 years old, going on 29 in August, but I think he's actually an upgrade over Baker in terms of coverage, but not as physical, not as good downhill at thumping and playing the run. That's where Jordan Brooks comes in. So diving a little bit deeper into Anthony Walker here for a sec before we get to Mr. Brooks. Walker was graded as the 31st best linebacker in football according to Pro Football Focus. He played 454 snaps last year in rotation with the other linebackers in Cleveland. And I always feel like he goes for too little of money. He's always signed to budget contracts. But 31st last year, 17th in 2021, and once again had an elite grade in 2022, but just didn't qualify due to, again, injury. So he's been injured quite often. But again, Miami continues to go after these players that maybe are not always available, often injured, but then often looked at as undervalued because they don't play all the games. So they're not able to stack up all of the stats. When they're on the field, they're effective, but then Miami typically runs into issues with injuries, which has been one of my criticisms of the team. So they signed 2 linebackers that are often injured, which I kind of hate. But I also understand why they signed them, because they are in a tough situation cap-wise, and they're looking for gems, and they're looking to still be able to compete. So how do you do that? You sign players that maybe you can count on, maybe you get lucky, maybe they stay healthy this year, and you've got a really good linebacker for really cheap. Last year, Walker's coverage grade was amongst the best in football, 13th in the entire NFL. So that is elite stuff for Anthony Walker and the Dolphins. Now, in terms of Jordan Brooks, Brooks is a very different player. He is super athletic, fast, big. He is physical. So when you look at Brooks' size, he is 6'1", 245. Anthony Walker is 6'1", 235. So pretty good size on both of them, but Brooks is a little bit bigger. And you certainly would see that if you looked at him. He is built like a Greek god. Former first-round pick, 27th overall selection out of Texas Tech. Last year, he had one of the best pass rushing grades in pro football at linebacker, 85 pass rush grade, which was 4th in the NFL. Now, his coverage grade was mid at 45th, 695 snaps played for Jordan Brooks, and he played a lot of snaps, 802, which is pretty good. So Jordan Brooks got the more substantial contract. He signed for 3 years, $30 million. The last few years, he's into this was just his 4th season in the NFL, going on his 5th. He's going to be 27 years old this year. He played 16 games, 4.5 sacks, which is a career high, 111 tackles, which is a career low, except for his rookie season. He had 1 touchdown on a pick 6, a fumble recovery. And in terms of his coverage, he actually did allow the lowest passer rating of his career, according to Pro Football Reference. So maybe he is trending in the right direction in terms of coverage. But overall, he's played in the Seattle scheme, which I think is interesting because it's going to be very different for him going to Miami. Maybe there's less responsibilities for him in terms of covering the range that he had to cover in Seattle. Because oftentimes, I feel like the reason Brooks has been looked at as a lesser linebacker for some people, and the reason his coverage grades and things like that have taken a massive hit, is because he has played in a defense that just asks him to do too much. Like, that defense will often ask them to align on slot receivers and tight ends and, have to cover a ridiculous amount of ground. And it's hard for a linebacker to do that, especially at the size that Jordan Brooks is, right? So he can be a really good corresponding thumper downhill to hit people and to make plays against the run, but then also have the speed to be athletic enough to drop into coverage. But maybe limiting that range of coverage would be smart. And maybe allowing Anthony Walker to play in a more limited capacity, maybe third down, maybe sub package, instead of Brooks, would be a smart way to keep both of these guys healthy for a good portion of time. And then complementing that with David Long Jr., who's also often injured, but a very good player when he's on the field. So also on top of those linebackers, they signed a center named Aaron Brewer. Aaron Brewer had his best season of his career last year. He ended up with the 11th best Pro Football Focus grade at the center position, playing in a zone running scheme on Mike Vrabel's Titans. He played 1,050 snaps with a 78.7 run block grade. He was one of the best run blockers in football, grading as the 7th best run blocker in the NFL. He struggles in pass protection, 26th out of 36 centers. The year before, he was 46 out of 77 at center. His rookie season was his 2nd best graded season of his career. He is 28 years old as a 1995, I believe. His snaps, though, rank at least in the top 10, I want to say. But, I mean, pretty substantial. He played a lot of games, a lot of snaps for Tennessee, and he was a bright surprise for them. Now, he brings, I think, a little bit more physicality. I think he brings a little bit more toughness, grit to the table for Miami's offensive line that was very finesse, very soft. I think they could definitely utilize that. He played 17 games and started 17 games the last 2 seasons. And at 27 years old, he's trending in the right direction as a center, progressing very well. I think Mike McDaniel could potentially hide some of his pass blocking deficiencies inside his scheme and really highlight his run blocking strengths. So this is potentially a really good bargain add for the Miami Dolphins. Now, not exactly bargain, 3 years, $21 million, but you get what I'm saying. He's not going to make Connor Williams money, that's for sure. So Aaron Brewer is a very solid replacement, especially in the running game for the Miami Dolphins for Connor Williams. So those are the Miami Dolphins signings today on day 1 of free agency. All right. Moving on. Cow is in the chat. He says, where do you think Snead is going? That's a good question. Hopefully to the Patriots. Malia says, Philly should have taken Snead. I'm surprised he's still a free agent. He's actually not a free agent. He's on the Chiefs. He's just franchise tagged. But he could be traded. So let's get to the next team. What's up, Team SOS? How you doing, man? How's your YouTube coming? Patrick Queen is still a free agent. So let me check off the ones that I've already done. So I've done Miami. The Falcons, I've got Cousins. I've got to do that one. The Niners, I did. Hang with me, guys. Hang with me. Also, what do you guys think about the idea of me cutting these into clips and spamming you guys with videos? What do you think of that? Eagles are up next. The Eagles I haven't done yet. Panthers I haven't done yet. Bengals I haven't done yet. Raiders I haven't done yet. Giants I haven't done yet. Oh, this sucks. Chargers I haven't done yet. Texans I haven't done yet. Packers I haven't done yet. Oh, my goodness. Cardinals I haven't done yet. Patriots I have. Okay. Patriots. Rams I haven't done yet. Commanders I haven't done yet. Broncos I haven't done yet. Vikings I haven't done yet. Titans I haven't. Oh my God, I'm going to be on here till tomorrow. The Jags I have. Ooh, baby. The Jags signed half the damn free agency, so. Packers, Cardinals, Patriots, Commanders, Broncos, Vikings, Titans, Bears, Lions I did. I did the Giants. Or no, I did the trade for the Giants. I didn't do all the Giants moves, though. Damn it! Let me do the Giants. I'm going to do the Giants. The G-Men. I think I'm going to sleep tonight, guys. I'll tell you that much. Where's the Giants? There they are. Okay. Hey, thank you for the super chat. Do you think Danielle Hunter has a chance to go to the Lions? Well, after they sign Marcus Davenport, I would doubt it. But I wouldn't rule it out necessarily. Big Al says, how about them Eagles? Malia says the Giants are trash. All right, let's do the Giants. Because Malia said so. Not only did the New York Giants, the G-Men, trade for Spider Burns, but they also had Tiki Barber get in a cat fight with Saquon Barkley on X. But not only that, they signed other players. First, they signed Devin Singletary, running back from the Texans. 3 years, $16.5 million deal. for Mr. Devin Singletary, former of the Buffalo Bills, now on the Giants, teaming back up with Brian Daboll. It's worth up to $19.5 million. He will be the Saquon Barkley replacement, ladies and gentlemen. Devin Singletary, a player that had his best season of his career, in my opinion, last year with the Houston Texans, carrying the football the most in his career, running for the most yards of his career. 216 carries, 898 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, catching the ball 30 times for 193 yards, no touchdowns through the air. I will say he's a limited receiver. You're not going to get what you got from Saquon in the receiving game from Devin Singletary. But what he is he's a one-cut, decisive zone runner who can actually make some people miss in terms of stop and go, but also in terms of balance and power. He's very good at breaking tackles and making people miss. And whenever he gets his hands on the ball, it feels like he's able to make a few extra yards inside that one run. Singletary is going to be 27 years old by September 3rd. Another guy that's right near my birthday. What is up with this? Devin Singletary. I really felt good about last year. He carried the load late last year for the Texans, getting 20 touches a game, being their red zone guy near the end of the year, near the playoffs. He was good. He was productive. He kept them on schedule. And he's not the pure fastest straight away, but he's got pretty good quicks, pretty good power, as I mentioned, and a good first and second down, especially running back. 4.2 yards per carry last year. He has never had less than that in his career with the Bills or the Texans. The other signings that the Giants made were on the offensive line. Jon Runyan signed a deal with the Giants, 3 years, $30 million deal. Runyan started 50 games over 4 years as a guard for the Packers and has plenty of experience, provides a high floor, and it feels like there is a similar theme here for the Giants. They seem to be finding guys on the offensive line that can plug in on that right side. Jon Runyan will play right guard, it feels like. Jermaine Eluemanor was the other signing they made, which is fascinating to me because of Evan Neal, right? 2-year, $14 million deal with the Giants. That is a steal. Jermaine Eluemanor was one of my favorite under-the-radar offensive linemen in the NFL. Jermaine Eluemanor worked under Carmen Bricillo in New England in that 2020 season. Jermaine Eluemanor played really well in 2020 with Carmen Bricillo coaching him in New England, protecting Cam Newton at right tackle. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Evan Neal here. They move him to left guard. If they keep him at right tackle and Eluemanor is more of a high-end swing tackle option in case Evan Neal sucks again. But they certainly needed to provide stability for Daniel Jones and for this offensive line to protect the quarterback. Daniel Jones is going to remain their quarterback. He's making a ton of money. They're going to have to keep him upright. And the best way to do that is getting linemen. Now, when it comes to the grading for both players, taking a look first at Eluemanor, who has been one of the most underrated tackles in professional football for the past 4 years. Eluemanor, 36th overall at the tackle position last year, which would grade second on the Giants behind only Andrew Thomas, who graded 18th. Eluemanor, 905 snaps at tackle last year, 36th in grade. The year before, 21st. In terms of run block grade, better than his pass block grade, 25th last year. He was early, career with the Ravens. Then he went to the Patriots. Then he went to the Raiders. Had a few good seasons with the Raiders. And then came back to the Giants here with Bricillo and with Daboll, 2 Patriot guys, and teamed up there. He is a little bit older. He is going to be 30, I believe, in December. But in my opinion, super undervalued. If I was a team like the Bengals or one of those teams that was a borderline contender, needed an offensive line upgrade, I would have looked at Eluemanor. I'm a little bit shocked that he went for what he went for and that he went to the Giants, a team that you would have figured they were going and running it back with Thomas and Neal. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with Eluemanor. And then, in terms of Jon Runyan started 17 games for the Packers this past year at 26 years old. He started 17 the year previous and 16 the year previous. That is 50 total starts in his NFL career. And he played 85% of the snaps last year, 96% in 2022, 94% in 2021. In terms of his grading, Jon Runyan, who's primarily played in a zone blocking scheme in Green Bay, how will he fit on the Giants? Eluemanor's primarily played in a gap scheme, which is fascinating. But in terms of Runyan, 47th overall at the guard position last year. That would be the best guard ranking among Giants players all last season. He also graded 37th in 2022 and 48th in 2021. So the Giants have done what they needed to do. They didn't re-sign Saquon, but they got a pass rusher in Brian Burns. They added to their offensive line, and they have more protection for Daniel Jones. Things will still break and things will still come to the Giants, but these are three quality moves that make the Giants better in arguably their two biggest areas of weakness. So you've got to love these ads by the Giants. So that's the Giants. Okay. What do we want to talk about next? Oops. Okay, next up. Let's do Kirk Cousins. Let's do Kirk Cousins next. Wrong, spike the like button if you haven't already. Man, I'm getting a little tired. We're going to fight through, guys. We're going to fight through for you guys. Atlanta. Let's do it, man. I don't even know what else I need. It's just Kirk Cousins, basically. All right. Atlanta. I have one question to ask you. One question only. You like that? Do you like that? Kirk Cousins, the money-making machine, has signed a 4-year contract with the Atlanta Falcons. We thought it might happen. We thought it might come. Kirk Cousins is no longer a Viking. He is an Atlanta Falcon and immediately makes the Falcons a legit NFC South contender and potential playoff team in 2024 and beyond. Achilles or no Achilles, doesn't matter. Kirk Cousins is going to come back. He's going to sling the rock to Kyle Pitts, to Drake London. He's going to operate off play action inside an offense that he knows extremely well. Kirk Cousins, 4 years, $180 million contract. $50 million in signing bonus, $100 million guaranteed. Kirk Cousins, the man, the myth, the legend. the top 12 quarterback in pro football, one of the most accurate, precise rhythm passers in the game today, one of the best pocket passers in the game today, is going to be chucking rocks to Drake London, handing the ball off to Bijan Robinson, and throwing little seeds to Kyle Pitts. Kirk Cousins. Why is he such a great fit for the Atlanta Falcons? Not only because they desperately, and I mean desperately, needed a quarterback and desperately needed hope. That's the biggest thing they needed. Hope. 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 They didn't have any. Desmond Ridder was their quarterback. I can throw the ball better than Desmond Ridder, bro. No, I can't, but you know what I mean. Okay? Marcus Mariota was their quarterback. Now you have a better Netflix quarterback series quarterback. His name is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, why is he such a great fit? Well, let's think about it. The Atlanta Falcons have a new coaching staff. Raheem Morris is the defensive coach and the head coach. Okay. He has some ties to Sean McVay. He has some ties to Kyle Shanahan. He has some ties to that whole tree. Zach Robinson, the new offensive coordinator, was with the Rams last year. Runs the offense, or at least we project to run the offense of Sean McVay. Now let's think about Kirk Cousins' career. He started off his career with Kyle Shanahan. Looked better than RG3. He then progressed to Sean McVay. He then progressed to Gary Kubiak. He then progressed to Kevin Stefanski. He then progressed to Kevin O'Connell. All of these folks have the same offense in some way, shape, or form. And Cousins has been dealing ever since he stepped in the NFL. And I believe that the Achilles will not affect him. Last year, he looked like a top 10 quarterback in football. With 18 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions, 2,300 yards in 8 games, going 4-4 with the Vikings. He beat the 49ers last year on Monday Night Football. The year before that, people forget, but Kirk Cousins had the most fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives in the NFL. 8. Not 5. Not 6. Not 7. 8 game-winning drives and fourth quarter comebacks. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler in his career, 2016, 2019, 2021, 2022. 2 years ago, 2022, he led the Vikings to a 13-4 record. He threw for 29 touchdowns to 14 picks, 4,500 yards. The year before that, 33 touchdowns to 7 picks. The year before that, 35 touchdowns to 13 picks. The year before that, 26 touchdowns to 6 picks. The year before that, 30 touchdowns to 10 picks. And it goes on and on and on. You're going to get 30 touchdowns. You're going to get about 8 to 10 picks with Kirk Cousins. And you're going to win games. And you're in a division where you could take advantage of the weak division. The Saints have tried with Derek Carr. It's not working. The Bucks just traded Carlton Davis. What does that say? Although they did sign Baker Mayfield back and Mike Evans is back and they'll be comp. But the Atlanta Falcons have Bijan entering his prime. Drake London and Kyle Pitts in their early prime. An offensive line ready to rock. A defense that will be elevated by coaching and Raheem Morris and a few big studs up front and in the back end. The Atlanta Falcons are ready to roll. And Kirk Cousins is ready to unleash. So may I ask you the question once again? Do you like that? I don't care how much money he is making. Hope is restored in Atlanta. A quarterback that is reminiscent of Matt Ryan is in Atlanta. Having a competent quarterback not only makes you more competitive and not only makes you better, but it makes you more hopeful. It makes you feel better about your team. So, you could say that we may never win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, but you weren't winning nothing with Desmond Ridder, with whoever you were going to bring in. You weren't in a position to get a rookie quarterback. So you go out, and we'll see what he's able to do with the new coaching staff and the weapons of the Falcons. I like this move a lot. I'm a fan of Cousins, and I'm a fan of the Cousins to the Falcons. All right. We're done that one. Is it time for the Philadelphia Sheagles? Or should we do the Vikings? Vikings first in response. PJ Walker didn't beat the Niners. The defense did. Oh. And the rain. And Brock Purdy in the rain. All right. Let's go. Kirk Cousins was actually surgical against the Niners, but anyways, there's a little bit of a difference there. Let's go. The Minnesota Vikings might have lost Kirk Cousins, and I understand you're probably depressed. You don't have a quarterback. You're going to be looking for the draft. You might be trading up. I don't know what the guys in Minnesota have up their sleeves, but what I do know is that they executed a plan. And that plan was Brian Flores' plan of defense. Defense. What kept the Vikings relevant last year when Kirk Cousins went down? Defense. Brian Flores is going to have some dudes, some dogs in Minnesota. First, they signed the young edge rusher to replace Danielle Hunter, Jonathan Greenard. 4-year, $76 million deal, according to Adam Schefter. That will signal the end for Danielle Hunter. But this is a guy that's 4 years younger, coming off a 25-year-old season. 12 and a half sack-a-ronies for Jonathan Greenard. Okay? Greenard, rookie in 2020, worked his way up as a third-round draft pick. In his second year, had 8 sacks. And in his fourth year under DeMeco Ryans, had 12 and a half sacks. Brian Flores must have seen something he liked in the water in Houston, because he likes to pick Texans players up. The Vikings like to pick Texans players up. And there might be some scheme versatility and crossover there with certain players because of what they do up front in terms of DeMeco being a linebacker, Flores being a former linebacker, maybe thinking the same in terms of how they see the game and what they implement up front. But Jonathan Greenard is a complete player. Hard worker. He is a high motor player, as you would put it. He is good in the run game. He is strong as a pass rusher. And he is going to bring a very high floor to the pass rush of the Vikings for years to come. Now, taking a look at how he graded according to Pro Football Focus, the Vikings got Greenard as the 30th best edge rusher in football, 697 snaps last year, playing 15 games. That is 2 spots lower than Danielle Hunter, by the way, in grade. And when you look across his grades, he does not have a single grade, whether it be coverage, pass rush, whether it be run defense or overall grade, of less than 69, which is impressive. He ranked 30th overall, 34th against the run, 39th as a pass rusher. In 2021, he graded as the 11th best edge rusher in football, 6'3", 263. He will be 26 this year. Very good player. Going to bring a number one pass rusher, a double-digit sack-capable player to the Vikings defense. And he won't be out of sorts when it comes to the run game either. That's exactly what Flores is looking for and what the Vikings are looking for in a pass rusher. They also signed another pass rusher that, because of Jonathan Greenard, he might go under the radar. And that is a man that looks like a Viking. A man that possesses such luscious locks that even Clay Matthews is jealous. Andrew Van Ginkel has signed to the Minnesota Vikings. 17 games last year from the Miami Dolphins, 6 sacks on the season, 69 tackles, 19 quarterback hits, a part of Vic Fangio's defense. He is a good stand-up rusher. He is a super underrated player and was one of my gems of free agency. Had an interception, had a pick 6, had 8 passes defense, gets his hands on the football. Worked under Brian Flores in Miami previously in his career and had his breakout season this past season. Andrew Van Ginkel graded as, guess what, guys? A top 10 Pro Football Focus edge rusher, 7th in the NFL on 727 snaps. He graded as a 91.1. That is impressive. 18th best in run defense, 7th in pass rush grade, 1st in coverage grade at the edge position, bats down passes, makes plays behind the line of scrimmage, 6'4", 242. Linebacker, edge versatility. I think of a Kyle Van Noy type when I think of Andrew Van Ginkel. He played 561 snaps on the line. He played 105 in the box. He played 56 in the slot as designated by Pro Football Focus. Very good player. Underrated. 2-year, $20 million. Van Ginkel brings the Vikings blonde locks to Minnesota. And the former, or the last, I should say, signing of the Vikings today was Blake Cashman, linebacker, Minnesota native himself, signed a 3-year deal worth $25.5 million. Blake Cashman is fast, athletic, sideline to sideline flowing assassin. Played for the Texans last year. Another undervalued pickup, another BLV gem of free agency signed by the Minnesota Vikings. So you can give me Kirk Cousins left, but your defense is substantially better now than it was before, brother. So let's take a look at Blake Cashman last year. Blake Cashman has made his way up the NFL ranks. He was a special teamer to begin with in New York, and for 3 seasons, he barely play defense. His first year, he had 40 tackles, half a sack. He started 5 games. That was it. That was with the 2019 Jets. After that, he didn't play on defense at all. He was a special teamer because of his speed and his athleticism. Then he goes to Houston. He starts 1 game, but he's a rotation player. He has 3 sacks. He has 26 tackles in 2022. And then he becomes a full-time player in 2023 under DeMeco Ryans. 13 starts, 14 games, 106 tackles, 2 sacks. He had 1 fumble recovery, 5 passes defensed, 1 interception. All around stuffing the stat sheet. And a really good coverage rating, passer rating allowed the last 2 seasons, 70.4, 78.1 the last 2 years, according to Pro Football Reference. According to his grading, Blake Cashman he was the 8th. I didn't even know it was this high. The 8th graded linebacker or greatest linebacker in the NFL last year. He was a 5th round pick once upon a time, which has held him back. But 8th best graded linebacker last year. 12th against the run, 25th in pass rush, 16th in coverage. He's mostly a cover and run defense linebacker due to his size at 6'1", 237, which is a replacement for Jordan Hicks, a younger replacement. And he can fly around and get through gaps with explosive effort. And that's exactly what Jordan Hicks brought the defense. I think Cashman brings something pretty similar for Flores in the future. So, the Vikings, 3 moves on defense, 3 that I like a lot, and I think they made some really nice moves, despite a lot of people going to say, hey, you got an L because Kirk Cousins is gone. These 3 signings will really help them on defense. They need to improve the secondary, but they're almost there. All right, the Vikings are done. Now it's time for the EAGLES, I think. Bro, I'm going to be so happy when I'm done this. Not even going to lie. How many more do we got? There were so many signings today. Okay. We got the Eagles, the Panthers, the Bengals, the Raiders, Chargers, the Texans, the Packers, the Cardinals, the Rams, the Commanders. Oh my gosh. The Broncos. Did I already do the... Wait. The Broncos. Oh, it's Bengals. Okay. I didn't do the Packers yet. I'm on it. Let's do the Eagles next. All right. Saquon Barkley. Big Al's pumped. Big Al's pumped. All right. The Philadelphia Eagles are soaring again after an absolutely horrific end to the 2023-24 NFL season. They come out in free agency and they make a splash with a Penn State legend. His name is the one and only sizzling Saquon Barkley, former New York Giant, NFC East rival. Tiki Barber doesn't like it very much, but you know who does? I do. Saquon fan club is back. Saquon Barkley is back. 3 years, $37.75 million for Saquon, 46.75 that is worth up to, and includes $26 million in fully guaranteed money. Barkley now beats the franchise tag number and has a maximum average per year $15 million. 15.8 to be exact. That would be the second highest for a running back in NFL history. Saquon Barkley, former first round, second overall pick in the 2018 NFL draft. Very popular. Very, very, very productive when he's been able to stay on the field. An electrifying rookie season in 2018 that saw him with 1,300 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns, 4 receiving touchdowns, 91 catches, 721 yards, 2,028 scrimmage yards, offensive rookie of the year accolades, and a Pro Bowl. In his second season, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 52 receptions, 2 touchdowns in 13 games. He had 1,441 total yards for his second season in 13 games, 3 less games than his first season. He got injured in 2020, missed the entire season, pretty much. He played 2 games, barely. Played 1 and a bit. 2021, it was tough. The Giants sucked, and Saquon was at his worst. 162 carries for 593 yards, 2 touchdowns, his worst yards per carry of his career at 3.7, and 41 catches for 263 yards and 2 touchdowns. But in 2022, with Brian Daboll and an improvement to the offensive scheme, he gets back to the Pro Bowl, and he once again is a top 5 running back in football with 1,312 yards, 10 touchdowns, 57 catches, 338 yards, almost all-pro comeback player of the year, 3rd in votes, and a Pro Bowler with 1,650 total scrimmage yards. This past season, not 1,000 yards. Again, the Giants absolutely sucked. The offensive line absolutely sucked. He had Tommy DeVito at quarterback. But he did go for 962 yards, 6 touchdowns, 41 receptions, 280 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns, 10 total, 1,242 total yards. He is now 27 years of age, just turned 27 in February, still pretty young, in the prime of his career. And he will be working behind the best offensive line by far of his NFL career. He will also be headed closer to home in Philadelphia. Saquon, once upon a time, was one of the most electric running backs that we've ever seen in professional football history. As a rookie, he was something else. Stop and go, stop and start. The acceleration to just hit 70-yard run after 70-yard run. And his receiving skills are really, really top-notch. I don't think he has the same gear that he once did after the injuries that he's had. I don't think he has the same explosive level or that gear to just hit a home run every time. But he's still really good. And I think he's learned how to be a better all-around back in terms of pass protection, in terms of getting the tough yards in between tackles, in terms of also hitting those electric plays. Screen game, pass blocking, receiving, lining up out wide. Saquon can do it all. He can be utilized like a Christian McCaffrey. 3-down player in every facet. He could be the Eagles' 3rd receiving option or 4th receiving option in this offense. And I am just really intrigued by how good he'll look behind this offensive line. Now, they no longer have Jason Kelce, but they just re-signed Landon Dickerson to a long-term contract. Mailata's still there. Lane Johnson is Farmers carrying 700 pounds, right? So that's good for him. And the Eagles always have a good offensive line. So I'm very fascinated to see how Saquon looks behind the offensive line, how he's able to create the maximum yards out of those looks, and then also how they use him as a receiver, and then comparing and contrasting that to his days in New York. Because I thought in 2022 he had a massive bounce back. I thought he looked great. In 2023, I thought he was pretty good, but he wasn't great. And a lot of that was probably situational. A lot of times in his career, he's been put in a terrible situation. But he's been able to overcome it, and that's what great players do. And now he'll be an Eagle, and I'm excited to see this offense. They're going to be tough to stop. Because not only do you have to deal with Saquon, but you have to deal with a quarterback that can run off of Saquon. You have to deal with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Do you keep 2 safeties high, or do you allow Saquon to run all over you? You've got a dynamic tight end with Dallas Goedert. So he just brings another dimension that the Eagles have never had with Jalen Hurts, that they have never really had in a long time. And, you know, like, they have never had that dynamic running back where he can make people miss and maximum yardage out of these plays. So Saquon is awesome. I still think he's awesome. He's a great guy, great leader, ambassador of football. He will be a fan favorite. There's no doubt. You just listen to his interviews. He's a hardworking guy. He's a family guy, stand-up dude. Saquon's one of my favorite guys in football, so I think he's going to be great in Philly. I think Philly's going to love him. I think Big Al is going to love him. He's probably going to get his jersey. He might hang up the McNabb jersey for his Saquon jersey, but we'll find out what Big Al ends up doing. I might even send Big Al a Saquon jersey. How about that? All right. Now, we must talk about the other addition to the Philadelphia Eagles. The second addition to the Philadelphia Eagles is an edge rusher. A little-known edge rusher that people within football knew was going to go for a lot of money. His name is Bryce Huff, formerly of the New York Jets. 3-year, $51 million deal. Howie Roseman loves his edge rushers. And it has been rumored that Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat are both on the block, and one of them, or if not both, could be traded. So Bryce Huff is going to be playing quite a lot for them. So we'll find out what happens. But Huff was a primary pass rusher in terms of being a pass rushing specialist for the Jets the last couple of years. He has not been an every down player for the Jets, but he might be for the Eagles depending on what happens. Now, he did play 481 snaps last year, had a 79.7 PFF grade. That is 24th in football. He had an 86.8 pass rushing grade, which is elite. That is 9th in the NFL, and a 68.2 coverage grade. He could play a similar position to Hassan Reddick or to Josh Sweat on the edge. He is 6'3", 255, which is pretty small, I would say, for that position. He's not very versatile. He's an edge rusher. He's a pin your ears back, get to the quarterback type of guy. He has not been trusted on run downs as much as some of the other Jet defenders. So I'm intrigued to see how much he does play and what his role will be with the Eagles. But I certainly believe he possesses that upside. You look at his career so far last year, in 17 games, he had 10 sacks, 21 quarterback hits, 29 tackles. He mixes it up to get by a tackle. He uses quickness with his feet, dip around the corner and bend to get to the quarterback, and he's super explosive. He just pops off the screen every single time. He played 42% of the snaps last year for the Jets on the defensive line. So again, he's been rotation, but in those rotation, 10 sacks for a rotation player is insane. He is 25 years old, so he's still growing, and he's going to be 26 in April, so still very, very young. Could replace one of those edge rushers, Sweat or Reddick, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Huff. I'm a fan of him because I've seen him play my Patriots and I've seen him sack my quarterbacks. And I think he's an extremely good pass rusher. And you need pass rushers to win football games. So the last addition that the Eagles made was just quickly Zach Baun, a linebacker from the Saints, who I believe was relatively high in terms of the draft. I want to say he was like a second-round pick once upon a time for the New Orleans Saints. So he was a third-round pick, 74th overall in the 2020 draft. He's been a depth linebacker for the Saints for his first 4 years of his career. Never quite worked out for what they wanted. 1 interception this past season, 30 tackles, which is a career high. 6 games started, which is also a career high. So he played a little bit more than typical Baun is mostly known for his run defense ability in terms of how he graded. Do they have him under Philadelphia yet? I'm not sure. Let's see. He might still be under New Orleans. Or maybe he's not even qualified. Let me see. Trying to find these stats for you guys. But the Eagles need linebackers. So I don't hate this move whatsoever. Just the fact that they went out and they added a linebacker is a good idea. So for some reason, I can't find him on... I can't find him on PFF unless he's listed as an edge rusher. Which maybe he is. Let's see. Huh. Weird. Okay, yes, he was listed as an edge rusher. 45th in football. That's a good grade. 303 snaps. 6'3", 225. I'm weird that he was listed as an edge rusher. But he played along the line 252 snaps. So I wonder if they're going to use him as an edge rusher or a linebacker. That's kind of interesting to me. So I guess we'll find out when he gets there. But 33rd in run defense grade this past year at the edge position. 45th overall. A 71.7 grade, which is the best of his career. So coming off the best season of his career and perhaps the most unique usage of his career, mostly aligning along the defensive front. So we'll see how they use him in Philadelphia, but that's an intriguing piece as well. Good for you, Cobra Kai. Good for you. I'm proud of you, buddy. They got Michael Onwenu back. All right, so who do we got next? We got the Panthers, the Bengals, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Texans, the Packers, Cardinals, Rams, Commies, Broncos, Titans. Who do you guys want out of those teams that I said? Packers? Okay. Gronk spike the like button if you guys haven't already. The likes help other people find this stream and this video, so thank you so much for your support. Also, if you've been tuning into BR streams, I appreciate you. I don't know if any of you guys have, but I was on there 3 times today. They actually asked me to do a 4th, but I was like, I gotta do my BLV, bro. I gotta do it. Like, I'm not, I gotta get, my BLVers will hate me if I don't do this stuff, so let's do the Packers. Okay. This one I can do without even looking at anything. But anyways, let's do the Packers. The Green Bay Packers have added a safety and a running back to the mix. 2 big names. 2 big money contracts for the offense and the defense. I was very intrigued to see what the Packers would do this offseason. They're in a spot where Jordan Love is still in a manageable situation with his contract. We've got a lot of young players that are productive for them on offense and defense. And it's time to take a swing. It's time to make a move. And they made an interesting one. Not one I think they would make at running back. They end up signing Josh Jacobs, the 2022 NFL leading rusher of the Las Vegas Raiders. And they end up cutting Aaron Jones, an electric running back, a fan favorite, an awesome player who was really good in the playoffs last year. And Josh Jacobs is coming off perhaps his most underwhelming season of his career. So to go after Josh Jacobs and to let go of Aaron Jones, at least in the short term, seems a bit weird to me. I'm not going to lie. I don't love that. I would have rather just kept both those guys. Why not? The tenure of Josh Jacobs and Aaron Jones as a backfield tandem in Green Bay lasted about as long as Aaron Rodgers bringing out that American flag. But when you look at Josh Jacobs, he had some issues last year, right? Josh Jacobs was on the franchise tag, and he was holding out for a contract. And he was coming off a season where he led the NFL in rushing yards with coach Josh McDaniels, in Josh McDaniels' offense. It's primarily a gap scheme, power running scheme. Why this also was confusing to me was the fact that Jacobs has primarily been great in a zone or in a gap blocking scheme and not a zone blocking scheme. That being said, with John Gruden, he played in mostly a zone scheme, or at least elements of both. There's some versatility there. But in 2023, Jacobs, 233 carries, 805 yards, 3.5 yards per carry is the lowest of his career. 6 touchdowns. He caught the ball 37 times for 296 yards. To me, he was holding out. He came back. He didn't appear to be in the best shape in the world. He looked a little slow. He looked a little sluggish. And he did not look like his 22, 24 years old self. Now, he has had a lot of wear and tear through his first few seasons. 242 attempts as a rookie, 273 as a second year, 217 as a third year, 340 as a fourth year, and then 233. So it's not easy to come back in the middle of the year and be an elite athlete. But he's been a good player. All-Pro, Pro Bowler in 2022. Pro Bowler in 2020. Offensive Rookie of the Year, second in voting in his rookie season. Offensive Player of the Year, 5th in voting in 2022. So he has accolades. He's been a great player. He's been a workhorse. He's been a guy that can catch the ball. 54 times, 53 times, 37 times the last 3 seasons. He's been a guy that can run the ball. He's a guy that can convert short yardage. He's a guy that can lead the NFL in rushing. He's a workhorse back. That's something that Aaron Jones has never been, to be fair to the Packers. Aaron Jones has never been a workhorse back. And in fact, Josh Jacobs has been a lot more reliable. Josh Jacobs has been a lot more durable than Aaron Jones. So you might look at Aaron Jones and say Aaron Jones is more electric, he's faster, he's more explosive. Even still, but he's not as good of a grinder. He's not as physical. He's not as reliable or durable. So there's reasons why the Packers might have gone with Josh Jacobs, on top of being 5'10", 223 pounds of muscle. That is Josh Jacobs. A muscle hamster. That is Josh Jacobs. A lot like A.J. Dillon, or at least the thought of A.J. Dillon in Green Bay. Right? That's what they drafted him to be, was a workhorse. And they never got it out of A.J. Dillon. But maybe that's what they'll get in Josh Jacobs. Still confusing, though. Aaron Jones is a freaking phenomenal football player. I would have loved to have had both. And he's going to go like hotcakes on the open market. He's going to go to Dallas. He's going to go to Houston, somewhere. Jets, who knows? But, last year, he missed 6 games. So maybe they're thinking he's slowing down a little bit. Wear and tear is going to come for him. He's 29 years old. He's almost 30. And they gave him the same contract. They gave Josh Jacobs the same contract that they gave Aaron Jones at 26 years old. They gave Aaron Jones at 26 years old a 4-year, $48 million deal. They gave the same to Josh Jacobs. So, interesting. But the move that I really like from the Green Bay Packers is their safety. And that guy is a man from New York. And his name is one that I've been alluding to all offseason for the Packers to sign, and that is former Alabama Crimson Tide safety Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney, 4th in PFF grade at the safety position, played 1,128 snaps in the NFL last year, which is in the top 8 for snaps. He had a 91.2 coverage grade, which, if you guys want to take a guess, he was 1st in the NFL in coverage grade. Xavier McKinney can do it all. Run defense, coverage, pass rush, Everything. He's elite. His snaps, 388 in the box, 167 in the slot, 464 in the free safety position. He's primarily a free safety. He can play a hint of slot corner if you want him to, and he can also play in the box and tackle pretty well. So he is a complete safety. And the other thing that is amazing about that is that Xavier McKinney is extremely young. He is 24 years old. And he's already getting a contract in free agency. He's born in August, so he'll be 25 this year. He had 3 picks this season, 116 tackles. The 3 picks are the second most of his career in a season. 5 in 2021 is his career high. He had 11 passes defense. That's also a career high. He had 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. He allowed a 69.8 passer rating according to Pro Football Reference. He has never allowed more than a 93.6, and he's had 3 out of 4 seasons below 73 in passer rating allowed, which is really good. McKinney's really good, and he can do everything. He's 6 foot 201. He's not small. He's got good size. He's smart. And in this new system for the Packers, he's going to do everything. He's going to be able to blitz. He's going to be able to play in the box. He's going to be able to, do everything. Play free safety. So, great leader too. He's going to team up with the secondary coach that he had at Alabama, which is a unique connection to look forward to if you're a Packers fan. They know how to use him already. This is not a projection. So that's also great. So 2 really awesome signings for 2 players that are in their prime right now for the Packers. And that fits the timeline of what their roster is looking like. This is going to be a good team. And Josh Jacobs, just to clarify if I said it incorrectly, Ben says Josh Jacobs is 26 right now. Yes, he's 26 right now. Aaron Jones is 29. They paid him the same contract when Aaron Jones was 26. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the Packers. Okay, did I talk about the Patriots? I did. I talked about, go watch this Mac Jones video. I talked about the free agency stuff in this video, though, if you want to scroll back. I will have the I don't know what you call it, timestamps later. Okay, so working our way through the teams. We've done the Packers now. I just saw that Joe Mixon got released and Zach Moss got signed, apparently. What are the Bengals planning over there? Feels like they're planning something. What's going on? Serious? Sorry, guys. Okay. Who should I do next? Raiders? Bengals? Titans? What's up, Edgeworth? How you doing? Why do you hate the Bengals? Joe Mixon released. Zach Moss signed a 2-year, $8 million deal that includes 4.5 payout in year 1. That's actually a really cheap deal for Zach Moss. Bargain hunting. I might as well do the Bengals now that it's fresh, and then I'll do the Titans. Hold on a second. Why can't I click on this? Bro. Okay. So 2-year, $8 million, 4.5. Zach Moss. Joe Mixon cut. Unbelievable. Future Chief. Is Mixon really only 27 years old? That's crazy. He feels so old. Uh-oh, somebody tweeted Jimmy Garoppolo to the Vikings, maybe. Okay. Let's talk about the Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have made a move to help the secondary, adding Geno Stone of the Baltimore Ravens. Count it with me, Bengals fans. Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, 7 picks. 7 for Geno Stone in 2023 as the free safety of the Baltimore Ravens. He has signed a 2-year, $15 million deal with a $6 million signing bonus to be the free safety of the Bengals. An absolute gem of a pickup, an absolute steal for that amount of money. 2 years, $15 million with a player that smart, that savvy, that much of a playmaker in your secondary, replacing what they didn't have last year in Jesse Bates. Geno Stone graded as the 25th safety in football last year with a 72.2 overall grade, 85.3 coverage grade, which is 7th best in pro football. Now, he did struggle in terms of his pass rush grade and his run defense grade. He was one of the worst run defenders, according to Pro Football Focus in football, but he is a free safety, so you take it where, you get it. 696 free safety snaps. He's pretty much a deep field defender. 159 box snaps and 110 slot snaps, so he was very largely a free safety. They are going to be a good secondary this year. A lot better, I think, than last year, just with his addition alone to cover up the deep areas of the field and complement what, Daxton Hill can do as a super athlete, and then complement a hybrid player, and then complement what Battle is able to do as a box safety, who he graded very well last year as a rookie. And he's not the most athletic, but very, very, very instinctual as a safety. So he's good in the box. So that's great complementing game. But Geno Stone, I've been a fan of Geno Stone in his first couple of years. As a Raven defender, he always stood out in terms of I think he's always in the right spot at the right time. 68 tackles. We brought up the 7 picks, 9 passes defensed. And the past couple of seasons, this was his 4th year in the NFL. He barely played in his first year as a 7th round pick. He made the team. Then he played 15 games, 17 games, only started 7 in 2022, but showed some flashes in 2022. And obviously the Bengals know him very well because they played against him twice a year the last 2 years. So they've probably been impressed by his tape, or the last 3 years probably. 2 years ago, he played 41% of the snaps. 3 years ago, he played 23% of the snaps. So Geno Stone, a great addition to the Bengals secondary, and going to add an area or a skill set that they did not have last year. Now, the other move that the Bengals made is an interesting one. They cut I would borderline call him, they cut a legendary running back for them, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, he's gone. I'm not exactly sure how much money he saves, but he does save a pretty significant portion of money. It's crazy. He is 27. He's turning 28 in July. He's the same year born as me, 1996. He's a little bit older than me, July. But he's only 27, and he has played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in the NFL. He's only 27 years old, which is insane. He has only run 1 Pro Bowl to his career, but he does have 4 1,000-yard seasons. He has been with the team for their most impressive runs. And I would especially say that Joe Mixon has been a very clutch player for them. Every time it feels like they need him to score in the red zone in a big game, he does it. Every time they need him to break a tackle, he does it. Every time they need him to catch the ball, he does it. Every time they need him to get a first down when the game's on the line, he does it. I almost never recall a situation where Joe Mixon needed to do something for the Bengals to win a game and he didn't do it. Almost never. He's coming off a season where he was very productive. I thought he actually played better than he did in 2022. Last year, he had more yards per game. He had a higher yards per attempt. He had more yards in general with 1,034. He had more touchdowns, 9-7. Obviously, he played more games, but he also had 52 catches. He had 60 the year before, which was a career high. He had 376, 3 touchdowns in the receiving game. He can catch the ball. He can run routes. He can get open. He can do that stuff. He's really good in the screen game. He's very smooth. He's one of the smoothest running backs in football. He's some of the best vision in football, some of the best feet in football. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL still. So it's disappointing to see them cut him. But it's for money. And he is getting a little bit older. And you got to wonder how much longer he can play at this level. So I get it to a certain degree with the other players that you might have to sign in the future. And some of the areas that you might want to improve this football team. You might want to keep DJ Reader. You might want to convince T. Higgins. You might want to add a corner like L'Jarius Sneed. You might want to add Marshawn Lattimore. I don't know. You might want to add offensive tackle, right? Jonah Williams is a free agent. So there's different things that you could do. And then in terms of who they brought in to replace him, Zach Moss, which is interesting. So Joe Mixon is 6'1", 220. So that's the first thing to take note of. Pretty good size for a running back. A little bit tall. Zach Moss is 5'9", much shorter. 205 pounds, similar weight. He looks beefier and bigger and stronger because he is shorter, so he looks stockier to his frame. But he got a 2-year, $8 million contract, 4.5 in year number 1. That is pretty cheap for a running back last year that looked like he could be a pure starter. With 794 yards, 5 touchdowns on 183 attempts. He also caught 27 balls for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 7 total touchdowns. Really good season for the Colts last year in place of Jonathan Taylor. Remember, he was the starter when Jonathan Taylor was not in because he was holding out. They are actually, I believe, the same age. Oh, Zach Moss is a year younger. But a lot less wear and tear. Obviously, you could go through Joe Mixon's carries, 178, 237, 278, 119, 292, 210, 257. You look at Zach Moss, 112, 96, 93, 76, 183. Like, he hasn't really got a lot of carries in his NFL career. So he's significantly younger in terms of wear and tear. Tread on the tires, all that sort of stuff. He isn't a great pass catcher. Mixon's certainly better in that regard. Pass blocking, I think Mixon's certainly better in that regard. But I think they're looking for him to become a tandem partner with other running backs in this backfield. I think they might want to go the tandem approach in the backfield. I'm intrigued to see where Mixon ends up going. But I think Chase Brown will get work. I think maybe, they've thought about Chris Evans at work, but I like Chase Brown quite a bit. So he'll probably be the primary guy. They also have Trayvon Williams. They could also sign another running back, and they've got Zach Moss. So I would expect the main two to be Chase Brown and Zach Moss as a power and speed combination from the backfield. But those are my thoughts on the Bengals' moves today. I love the Geno Stone pickup. I'm intrigued to see why they went about the Joe Mixon business, but I kind of understand at the end of the day, even though it hurts. All right, let's move to the next team. Who's up next? Who's next? As Goldberg would say. The Tennessee Titans, right? That's what we wanted. Did anyone else sign while I was talking? Chris says, Duval. I already talked about them, bro. They signed everybody today. Bro, what's going on with that? $80. Cobra Kai, I want $80. Did I talk about the Raiders yet? No? I must have talked about them on BR. Anyways, let's talk about the Titans. Okay. The Tennessee Titans are looking for upgrades. They are ready to tighten up. 3 additions to the Tennessee Titans. 1 at running back, 1 at cornerback, and 1 on the offensive line. 3 good football players are now Tennessee Titans. Let's start off with the first, the marquee, Tony Pollard, a Tennessee Titan. He's from Tennessee. I'm sure he loves it. 3-year, $24 million. Tony Pollard has been one of the most explosive running backs in football in his career. Last year, not the case. If you watch Tony Pollard play, he looked like Ezekiel Elliott. He looked slow. He looked old. He looked run down. He looked torn apart. Tony Pollard, though, 3 years, $24 million contract for the Titans. If he can get healthy this year, he's a steal. Because Tony Pollard, before 2023, in which he had 252 carries, 1,005 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.0 yards per carry, 55 receptions, all-time best for his career, 311 yards, 1,316 yards from scrimmage, second best of his career. If Tony Pollard can get back to 2022, 2021 Tony Pollard, where he had 5.5 and 5.2 yards per carry, where he wasn't 1,000-yard back on 193 carries in 2022 and a Pro Bowler in 2022, despite being a borderline backup for half the season. 9 touchdowns, 39 catches that year. Pollard was one of the most efficient, electric, and difference-making running backs in football. This feels like the DeMarco Murray 2.0. Signed the Cowboys running back to the Titans. But ultimately, we will not know about Tony Pollard and if this was a good signing or not until we see him this year. If he looks the way he looked with Dallas, I would say it's a pretty bad signing. Because I would not sign that guy to be my starting running back. He's not terrible, but he's not the same. And he's smaller. He's not a great route runner or pass catcher or pass blocker. So it doesn't make it worth it for him not to have the efficiency, the electricity, the speed, the breakaway ability that he had, which he certainly did at one point. But Pollard is 26. He's going to be 27 in April. And the last 2 years, he's had 1,000 yards. He fits the offense of the Titans. The former Bengals offensive coordinator is now their head coach in Callahan. And runs a lot. It depends. But his dad runs a lot. Some zone, some gap scheme in Cleveland. He could do both. Pollard, I would say, is a better zone back because of his size, stature, and speed. And I think they'll lean into that. I also think the offensive line, and that's what they've been doing in Tennessee the last few years. So I would say they would probably remain pretty similar in that regard. But Pollard's a guy that can do a little bit of everything. You just kind of wonder what you're going to get from him. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, at the end of the day, we don't really know yet. This could be a great signing. This could be extending, the Derrick Henry running game for the Titans. It really could. But, you look at the grade from Pro Football Focus. Derrick Henry graded 3rd last year. Tony Pollard graded 15th. I'm actually surprised he graded that high. I'm not even going to lie. But the years previous, he graded 4th in 2022. 4th in 2021. So he was an elite running back. Maybe that's what happened. He went from elite to just okay. Which, that's what we notice at running back. But He did have an 84.7 run PFF grade, which is in the top 10. He's 10th. Receiving grade was not very good. Pass blocking grade was pretty decent. But overall, that's just a PFF grade. From my eye test as a fantasy owner of Tony Pollard, I was not very impressed last year. But that's only because I knew what he was before. Now, there were other moves that I think are a little bit more for sure things, or a little bit more exciting, I would say. Because with the Pollard move comes the fact that you won't have Derrick Henry, which obviously people are going to be depressed about. Now, that being said, you also have a young man at the running back position named Tajay Spears, who I like a lot. I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. But you also signed a cornerback named Chidobe Awuzie from the Bengals, another connection there to the coaching staff. Chidobe Awuzie, who was very good in 2021. He was one of the best corners in the NFL in 2021. He got hurt in 2022. And even in the deal that was reported today, the tweet suggested that he's one of the most underrated DBs in the league. Now, Chidobe Awuzie comes from Dallas, as did Tony Pollard. He can play man, he can play zone. He's good in both coverages. He's got pretty good speed to him, decent size to him. I think he's about 6 foot exactly, if I'm not mistaken, which is pretty good for a corner. 6 foot 202. He's 95, so he's 28 years old. Chidobe Awuzie started 10 games last year for the Bengals, had 57 tackles, no interceptions in 22 either. He had 8 games started in 22 before he got hurt. But you look at some of his coverage numbers in 2021 and 2022, he was legitimately one of the best corners in the NFL. Like last year, he had a 53.4 passer rating allowed, and the year before, he had a 75.1 passer rating allowed. So he was a outside number 1 corner on one of the best teams in the NFL. That's a pretty good player, right? And then in 2023, he dropped off a bit with 113 passer rating allowed, mostly because he allowed 4 touchdowns. In the year before, in 8 games, he allowed 0 and a 38% completion percentage in 2022. So he was nuts in 2022. But the thing is, he got hurt. So that slowed him down. How will he be able to recover this year? So they're looking at 2 players that are coming off injuries that were once really awesome players that both happened to play for the Cowboys, that they're hoping that now, a year removed from injury, can actually be back to their special forms, which is an interesting way to go about free agency. Never really thought of that. But it was a 3-year deal for Awuzie. I'm not sure the compensation. I'd have to take a look on Twitter because I did not mark it down. Let's see. $36 million, $23 million guaranteed. There you go. And then the final signing for the Titans, Lloyd Cushenberry, center of the Denver Broncos, got a 4-year, $50 million deal, set several records for centers, including signing bonus over $18 million, fully guaranteed $26 million, and first-year cash $20 million. Now, I will say this is an overpay. It's definitely an overpay. But Lloyd Cushenberry is a good young football player at the center position, which is extremely hard to find. He is 26 years old. He turns 27 in November. He started all 17 games in 2023. He has started 8 games out of 8 in 2022 because he got hurt that year. And then he started all 16 in 2021 and 2020. So he started every game that he's been able to play in the NFL for the Denver Broncos. In terms of his accolades, 2020 All-Pro or All-Rookie team. That's it. He's not been to a Pro Bowl, but he did have his best season of his career with Sean Payton coaching him last year. And considering that Callahan's father is now the offensive line coach and he is an offensive line guru, I would probably suggest that Lloyd Cushenberry is going to have a good career as a Tennessee Titan because he just finds a way to get the most out of these guys. But Cushenberry was the 10th graded center in the NFL last year with 1,070 snaps a 76.4 pass block grade, which is third in the NFL, 72.4 run block grade, 14th in the NFL. And like I said, the last couple of seasons, he wasn't great. Like 2020, he stunk as a rookie. According to PFF at least. That's just PFF. 2021, 21st, not bad. 2022, 32nd. Again, not very good. So that's at least according to PFF. So that's just that. But then this year, he was awesome. So, I don't know. It depends what you look at. But, good player, young player, progressing in the right direction, going to have great coaching. Perhaps they see something where he can't only be good, but potentially great one day, which you pay for the future, right? So, I like it. I think the Titans, who have gotten a Bengal corner and a Bengal coach, I think they made some nice moves. I'm just intrigued to see how these players coming off of injuries are going to perform in 2024. That is the Titans. Who's next? The Raiders. No one has signed Aaron Jones yet. Looks like everything's kind of stopped, if I'm not mistaken. Darnold is deciding between the Vikings and the Broncos, apparently. There's interest on both sides between the Ravens and Derrick Henry. All right, next. Let's go with the Raiders. Next up. Minshew Mania. All right. Hulkamania is running wild, brother. Where is Minshew? Minshew. All right. The Las Vegas Raiders have risen. Christian Wilkins, the biggest marquee name on the market, has signed a massive contract to become a silver and black Las Vegas Raider. And now he will team up with Max, the Madman, the Mad Max Crosby. And at quarterback, Gardner Minshew. Minshew Mania is running wild, baby. And it's in Las Vegas. Have you ever seen a quarterback like Gardner Minshew embody the essence of Kenny Stabler and Las Vegas all at the same time, brother? Because Minshew Mania in 2024 is going to run wild on you, Ben. You, Chiefs Kingdom. The Mahomes rules will apply to Christian Wilkins. And the Raiders have a new starting quarterback. I can't wait to watch this team. Minshew has always been one of my favorites. He's a great character. He's a great guy. He, at 27 years old, turning 28 in May, is still a relatively young quarterback in this league. He started 13 games in 2023, winning 6, winning 7, losing 6. He was, in fact, a Pro Bowl quarterback when it was all said and done, with 3,305 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 picks. He also had 2 game-winning drives, 2 fourth-quarter comebacks, a 84.6 passer rating. And in terms of rushing, he had 100 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing to make that a total of 18 touchdowns to 9 picks. So, Gardner Minshew, what do I like about him? First of all, I like his moxie. I like his swagger. I like his confidence. I like his ability to lead a team and lead a group of men. I think that players love him in the locker room. Players respect him. Players want to play with him. He's a fun personality, and he's easy to root for as a fan. If I was a fan of the Raiders, I'd love to root for Gardner Minshew. It's easy. I'd also get some jorts so that I can go to the game and dress up like Gardner Minshew and get a nice stash. On top of that, he is accurate. He's got a quick release. He's got really good touch on his ball. He is pretty good pre-snap at identifying coverages and finding where to go with the ball. Negatives. He's small. He's about 6'1", which is relatively small. He looks small on the field. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, which oftentimes gets him into trouble. Some games he has trouble in terms of losing control of the ball and throwing interceptions. There's certain games where he just has bad game and he'll throw like 2 or 3 picks. But oftentimes he does a pretty good job controlling the ball and keeping possession and being a turnover-free guy. He can scramble better than you would think. He's got some quickness, some good pocket presence to him. In his rookie season, he actually had 21 touchdowns and only 6 picks, which is a really good rookie season. And he was 6-6 as a starter for the Jags. He also had 3 game-winning drives and 3 fourth-quarter comebacks. He's also been a pretty productive player, in Jacksonville with his first season, 21 touchdowns, 6 picks. His second season, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's been in Philadelphia for 2 years as a backup, where he played pretty well in 2021 and 2022. And, you look back at the game that he played against the Cowboys, I thought was pretty impressive, but then he didn't play as well against the Saints. So Minshew's I think, a good bridge option with a lot of admirable traits that will make him a fun quarterback to watch for the Raiders, especially with the receivers that they have. Now, in terms of Christian Wilkins, yes, he is definitely entertaining. Aiden O'Connell, not so much. In terms of Christian Wilkins, he is awesome. Christian Wilkins is one of the best defensive players at his position in the NFL. Christian Wilkins is a complete and utter monster. They signed him to a 4-year, $110 million deal. They pair him up with Max Crosby, $84.75 guaranteed. Antonio Pierce wanted his defense. They have one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in the NFL. In terms of his stats, I'm looking them up. Christian Wilkins played 17 games. He had 9 sacks, which was a career best this year, 65 tackles, and 2 passes defense, 23 quarterback hits, which was 10 more than any season in his career. Early in his career, he played primarily in Flores' defense, which is a totally different scheme from Vic Fangio. These past couple of years, he played in more of a Vic Fangio style of defense, or at least in 2023 he did, which catapulted his numbers to 9 sacks. I think that did have an influence on that in terms of the scheme. Now, he is also an extraordinarily good run defender. He was the 29th graded player at his position by PFF this year, which is not as good as his grades in 2021, which was 6th, and 2022, which is 9th. Take that for what it's worth. He was drafted in 2019. He's a 1995. He is 28 years old. And in terms of run defense, he's put up some crazy numbers. I'm actually going to try to pull up the stats for the advanced stats for the run stops and things like that. I know for a fact that last year he led the NFL in run stops at the defensive tackle position. So this see. So last year, hold on, 2022, he had 46 run stops, which is 10 more than second place. He had 12.4 stop percentage. In 2023, again, scheme change, more sacks, less run defense oriented. Let's see where he ranked in terms of stops. So this past season, he did not, I'm trying to find where he is, to be honest with you. Derek Brown was first. Shout out to him of the Carolina Panthers. Can I find Christian Wilkins? What team do they have them listed under? So is he listed under Vegas? No, he's not. Listed under Miami? Okay, he had 24. So that is 18th. Tied for 18th. So still pretty good, but not nearly as good as the year before. Percentage-wise, 6.9. 36 tackles in the run game. In terms of his pressure stats, looking up the pressure stats. He's a big boy, though. He is 6'4", 310. Absolute beast. And now, I think what this does for the Raiders, as my thing is loading here, and I don't even know if it's going to show up. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, both great against the run, both great pass rushers, one from the interior, one from the edge. So what this allows you to do now is put less bodies in the front seven to stop the run. It's easier to stop the run. You don't have to put as much effort into it, which helps your defense. When you do stop the run, you get in better opportunities to rush the quarterback. When you do rush the quarterback now, you've got better pass rushing capabilities and players to rush the quarterback. So it's simple defensive math. If you're better against the run, you're better against the pass because of it. If you're better against the pass, you get off the field more. If you can get more pressure, you can get more interceptions. It's just a trickle-down effect. So that's exactly what he does. In terms of pressures at his position, he ranked 9th this year. In terms of hits, he ranked 3rd this year. In terms of win percentage, not as high, but again, he played, let me see, what's this? True pass rushing snaps. Okay, I didn't even know that was a stat. Anyways, you guys understand. He's really good, and he's worth the money, and he's in the prime of his career, and it's rare that players like this get to the market, and it's worth to pay these guys the money when they get there, especially when you have the money. So I like the Minshew signing for morale, for leadership, for culture, for all that. He fits the gritty nature, the underdog nature of Antonio Pierce, and Wilkins embodies it through his play. Great signings for the Raiders. I think they did some business today. Some good stuff. I like actually signing Minshew for the team this year rather than trading for Justin Fields. I think it actually is a better move, personally. So yeah, that's the Raiders. Next. Who else we got? Chargers, Texans, Cardinals, Rams, Command. Oh my God, bro. How many teams signed players today? Screw off. What's up, Swivel? How you doing, bro? The Colts didn't do shit today. Who'd they sign? Other than their own players. Don't make shit up. The Patriots re-signed Jalen Reagor. Nice. The Chargers. All right. You want to do the Chargers? The Chargers are pretty easy. They only have 2 players. Okay. I don't know why I just didn't open up 2 tabs of different players on Pro Football Reference. Okay. There we go. Chargers are adding a big bus to the backfield. His name is Gus the Bus Edwards, and he is reuniting with his former Baltimore Raven offensive coordinator, Gregory Roman. Gus Edwards just had a really good season with the Ravens, the engine of the running game, a powerful back, and one of the best short yardage running backs in pro football, ranking 4th in that category this past season, when Austin Eckler ranked about 30th. So if you got one thing over Austin Eckler, it's you got a cheaper running back, 2 years, $6.5 million, 3.375 in guarantees. You also got a guy that's really good in short yardage, really good in the red zone, can punch the ball in. 198 rushes, 810 yards, 4.1 yards per carry this past season. That was his personal best in terms of attempts, yards, touchdowns, 13 touchdowns. He also had the most catches of his career with 12 for 180 yards, which is 15 yards per reception, which is nuts, primarily coming on screen plays. He's not a pass catcher. He's only caught 30 catches in 5 years in the NFL. That's not a lot. It's not a lot. That's, 6 a year? So, that's not a lot. But he is powerful. He's got deceptive speed and explosion. He fits the offense, the gap scheme, the power running scheme of Greg Roman. And he's going to bring a nice floor to the backfield for a team that really couldn't afford a marquee running back because they don't have any cap space. So we'll see what the Chargers end up doing. But Gus Edwards was a very nice signing, a very nice fit for a team that needed a running back. Austin Eckler's gone. They don't have one any longer. Checking where Gus Edwards ranked in terms of PFF. His grade, 28th at PFF's running back rankings last year, playing 512 snaps, which was about average. So yeah, he's a pretty good player. He's nothing special, but he's definitely good in this system. And I'll say that much. I think he's been underrated for a majority of his career because he just always gets yards. And the other signing that the Chargers made was Will Dissly, a backup tight end from the Seattle Seahawks. He signed a 3-year, $14 million deal worth $10 million guaranteed. Now, Will Dissly, I think what he brings at 27 years old from the Seahawks is a reliable pass catcher underneath that is a all-around inline tight end who can block, catch, and do everything. And in Greg Roman's offense, you need a lot of tight ends. They like to feature tight ends. They like to have guys that can block, and that is essential. So 2 marquee Greg Roman signings, a tight end that is well-rounded and a running back that is powerful and can execute on his run plays. Will Dissly has had some decent moments in his career. He's had 23, 24, 21, 34 catches from 2019 through 2022. He had 17 catches this past year. So he catches about 25 passes this season. So he's a number 2 tight end who can block. And that's what they'll ask him to do. I'm not sure who their starter is going to be quite yet. I don't think it will be Dissly. But he did grade as the 15th best tight end in football last year, according to PFF, with an 83.5 pass blocking grade and a 77.2 run blocking grade, which was 3rd in the NFL. So you get the point. There it is. Charges. All right. Texans, Cardinals, Rams, Commanders. I might as well leave the Broncos because they've only signed one player. The Jets signed John Simpson. Is this the first signing for the Jets? Because if so, I'm going to leave them as well for tomorrow. Okay, I think we got about 3 more teams, guys. 3 or 4. Panthers signed Damian Lewis. We could do the Panthers. 2 guards. Oh, maybe I got more than 3. 4, 5. Where's the Panthers? All right, let's do the Panthers. Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis. Gronk spiked the like button, guys. Who's still here? We still got 37? That's not bad. Thank you guys for staying up. If you're on the East Coast. Caesar's probably listening to Jack FM. All right. These are interesting signings by the Panthers, man. All right. The Carolina Panthers have gotten a lot more powerful within the past 24 hours. The Panthers have signed not 1, but 2 big men on the offensive line to protect Bryce Young and to power the running game of the Carolina Panthers. Old school style. Robert Hunt was the marquee signing of the day, signing a 5-year, $100 million contract that includes $63 million guaranteed. Robert Hunt is one of the best guards in football with great versatility. He can play inside, he can play tackle as well. He has sprinkled that in throughout the course of his career. Robert Hunt, graded as the 6th best guard in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus this past season, with a balanced run and pass profile. What I like about Robert Hunt and what I think a lot of NFL teams like about Robert Hunt, second round pick in 2020. So he's always been a pretty good prospect, but he's turned into a player that's had physical talent to be able to move well, to be physically powerful, but then also to be a refined pass blocker as well as a good mover in the running game. So he can fit any system. I think he's a scheme versatile guy, which means he's very easy to foresee playing in any offense, which means it makes it a lot easier to pay him because you know that it's not a scheme thing, which I think the Panthers have fallen into in the past with signing certain guys like Bradley Bozeman, for example, just off the top of my head, that hasn't exactly worked out because he was in the wrong scheme or just didn't exactly fit, right? But Robert Hunt, these past 3 years, this is his 4th year this past season in 2023. He graded as the 6th best lineman. In 2022, he graded as the 12th best lineman. In 2021, he graded as the 36th best lineman. In 2020, he graded as the 50th best lineman. You see a trend here, 50th to 36th, 36th to 12th, 6th to 1st? I don't know. But just saying, he's really good. And he's still pretty young. He's about 27. He's going to be 28 in August, late August. So this is a guy that's mostly been healthy throughout his career as well. This past season, he did miss 6 games, but otherwise he's played in every other game that he's been on the football field. And yeah, he's played right tackle. He's played right guard for primarily his entire career. So he's been put in awkward positions because the amount of injuries that the Dolphins have sustained. A lot like Michael Onwenu, he has versatility to play both positions. I do think he's going to play guard, though, but I don't 100% know because the Panthers have gone out and signed another guard here and that I'm going to talk about in a second. But they also have, obviously, a former first-round pick at a tackle position. They also have a highly paid right tackle, Taylor Moton, or Moton, depending on what you're telling me his name is nowadays. But it's interesting. So Brady Christensen, in my opinion, has sucked for years. He was a third-round pick in 2021. Onwenu is the left tackle. Taylor Moton is the right tackle. They don't have a center unless Austin Corbett is going to be their center, but I don't really know. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do because Onwenu, many people thought he might play guard, but is that going to happen if they sign Hunt and Damian Lewis, who I'm going to talk about next? So I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're just getting two guards. Maybe that's just what they're doing because Brady Christensen has kind of sucked. Maybe Cade Mays is going to be their center, who graded 42nd on the guard position. Apparently good run blocker. Don't know him that well. You guys would probably know him better as Panther fans out there. They obviously cut Bradley Bozeman. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But regardless, they've signed two good guards that I both really like. I like Damian Lewis a lot too. I'm been a big fan of Damian Lewis. If I'm not mistaken, I think I included him in my gems underrated free agents. If not, I included him in at least one of these videos. But Damian Lewis has been one of my favorites because I love big, beefy, downhill, beat you into the ground guards. I like people that beat people up. And Damian Lewis does that. He's 6'2", 327 pounds, absolute monster. He is 26 years old. He has played pretty much 16 games every year of his career. He missed 3 games in 2021. Otherwise, he has played every single game, so he's pretty healthy. In 2020, he was listed as a 2020 NFL All-Rookie team member, and he is a better run blocker than pass blocker. I would say that Robert Hunt is definitely the better player. Robert Hunt is the more well-rounded player. Robert Hunt has more versatility. Lewis is a power blocking guard. He could probably play zone scheme as well as he has in Seattle, but I think of him as a power blocking guard. He graded as the 37th best guard in football last year with 926 snaps. The previous seasons, though, as a rookie, he was 13th out of 80, and as in 2022, he was 11th. So he's been really good a couple times in his career through 4 seasons. So 2 really good signings, in my opinion. This was for 4 years, $53 million, 26.2 fully guaranteed in a deal by the Panthers. So 2 guards, 2 upgrades to protect Bryce Young, the little man at quarterback, which is very much needed because you need to protect Bryce Young. He is your franchise, and you need to be able to complement Bryce Young with a running game. So receiver will be next, I assume. But I like these additions. I think the Panthers are doing the right thing by going offense right now in free agency with 2 good young offensive linemen who are young but also proven. So that is the Carolina Panthers. You think Onwenu will stay at right tackle? I don't know, bro. I don't know. All right, next team is the Houston Texans. Gronk, spike the like button, guys, if you haven't already. We have a few teams remaining. Texans, Cardinals, Rams, and the Commanders. Tell me who I should do last. Tell me who I should do last in the chat. All right. The Houston Texans have had quite the eventful day when it comes to free agency, because many thought that the Houston Texans, including myself, would be after some of the biggest names in free agency, and maybe they still will. But they largely have stuck with the same plan under Nick Caserio. Find the underrated gems and pick them off the market and place them on our roster. Some of these signings I really like. Some of them I don't care for as much. But I also expected more out of the Houston Texans. I expected a Christian Wilkins signing. I expected a Danielle Hunter signing, who's still out on the market, by the way. I expected maybe a big splash on the offensive line or in the secondary, which could also still come, by the way. But the Houston Texans have let go of Jonathan Greenard and lost him. Devin Singletary is out. He is gone. No running back to replace him quite yet. Blake Cashman, an underrated player, is gone. So Texans fans must be feeling a bit depressed when it comes to that. But they also made some darn good moves today. And it's hard to say that they didn't do some good things. And that starts with signing veteran defensive lineman Denico Autry, formerly of the Titans, to a 2-year, $20 million deal that has $10.5 million guaranteed. I believe those are the figures. I'm going to double check because, quite frankly, I cannot believe my eyes when it comes to giving an individual, regardless of age, 2 years, $20 million for 11 and a half sacks. That doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make any sense. Okay? So it was initially reported as 2-year, $10 million deal, which is absolutely ridiculous. But it's 2 years, $20 million as far as I'm concerned. $10 million guaranteed. That is the guaranteed number. Now, in terms of Denico Autry, one of my favorite defensive linemen in the NFL for a couple years because of his versatility. He's played in every system known to humankind. 4-3 under front. Traditional 3-4 edge, or defensive lineman. He's played 4-3, end. He's played interior pass rush specialist. He's played stand-up, nickel front rusher. Whatever it is, he's played it, right? Like, this guy has done it all, okay? This past year, he put up the most sacks of his career with 11 and a half, playing edge rusher primarily for the Tennessee Titans. He had 17 quarterback hits, 12 tackles for loss, which was the second most of his career, 50 tackles, which was the most of his career. He had 2 forced fumbles, 4 passes defensed in 14 starts and 17 games. He has largely played in a rotation throughout the course of his career, and I would not be shocked to check his stats in terms of snaps and see that he played the most snaps of his career this year. Let's check that just because. So he played 768 snaps, which is the most of his career. Good job, Mitch. He has played in Oakland. He has played in Indianapolis. Yes, I said Oakland. Indianapolis, and he's played in Tennessee. Throughout his career, he's had seasons of 9 sacks, 7.5 sacks, 9 sacks, 8 sacks, and 11.5. And when you look at his career the last few years, from 2020 to 2023, he's had himself a very productive 2020s. He had 7.5 sacks in 2020, 9 sacks in 2021, 8 sacks in 2022, and 11.5 sacks in 2023. So those are very good numbers in consecutive seasons. And that even includes 2022, where he had 8 sacks in 12 games and 7.5 sacks in 14 games in 2020. Mostly a healthy guy, doesn't get injured too much overall. So Autry's an awesome player. And he's really good against the run because oftentimes he plays on the edge and he's typically too big to play on the edge. He's one of those freaky guys where he is just a big human, and usually guys that big aren't playing that position a lot of the time. So looking at, just trying to see where PFF has him listed here. Looking at PFF, they were not too kind in his Pro Football Focus grade this year, ranking him 78th among 112 edge rushers. Last year, he ranked 17th. The year before, 35th. and so on. But the numbers would say something else, and I like to look into the in-depth stats, but into his size. So he's 6'5", 285, and he plays edge rusher. I think I just talked about, who was I talking about where he's like 6'2", Bryce Huff? He's like 6'2", 235. This guy's 6'5", 285, John. Okay? He's a beast. And you dive a little bit deeper, for the Texans fans out there, because I like you so much, looking into the premium stats and his pass rushing productivity. Let's just check what they got him at. But it lessens the load. It lessens your conscience when you lose a Jonathan Greenard at 25 years old who put up 12.5 sacks. And you're able to sign a proven NFL veteran who's put up at least 7.5 sacks for like 4 or 5 years in a row, and you only got him for $20 million on a 2-year deal. Okay. But anyways, continuing with the stats. So, just to finish Danico off, help me out here, PFF. What do we got? So PFF has him listed, of course, under the Titans, jabronis. 53 pressures on the season, 5 hits, 36 hurries. So pretty good numbers. 53 pressures would rank him 30th in overall pressures last year. Where's Jonathan Greenard? Jonathan Greenard was the same. Unless I'm looking at Jonathan Greenard's numbers. That is wild. Anyways, the next signing that the Texans made was a small one. They signed former first-round pick, high draft pick, cornerback Jeff Okudah. Played in Atlanta last year on a 1-year, $4.75 million deal, 2.5 guaranteed. Jeff Okudah actually played quite a bit last year. Nobody really noticed. But honestly, I've never been a Jeff Okudah fan. I wasn't in the draft. I'm not now. Despite him, I think he was a 3rd overall pick for the Lions once upon a time. He started 9 games for the Falcons last year. He started 15 for Detroit the year previous. He's not a bad player. He's a decent depth corner. He's better in zone than man. He doesn't run particularly well, but he's pretty good at the line of scrimmage, pretty physical, pretty good in zone. 94.6 passer rating allowed, 87.6 the year before. And yeah, I would call him like a CB4, a cornerback 4. You don't really want him starting, but like he can play if you need him to, and he's solid, and obviously has some things that people really like. And maybe DeMeco Ryans looked at him and said, hey, I really like this guy from the draft a few years ago. Maybe I can coach him up and he can be a really good player for us. That's possible, right? So you never know with that sort of stuff, but that's an interesting signing. Let me know what you guys think on that. Then they added Foley Fatukazi, one of the best names in the NFL, 1-year deal at defensive tackle. Big run stuffing force. That's what he is. I don't know if he's a replacement for Sheldon Rankins or what he is. He played in Jacksonville last year. He was a starter for them. I don't know if he's a replacement for Sheldon Rankins. Sheldon Rankins hasn't signed yet. But 60th in PFF grade last year, 415 snaps. Run stuffing machine. Let's check his stats. Played in New York before that, 6'4", 318. And actually, I would say this about him as well. He played better in New York than he did in Jacksonville, despite being a limited player in New York in terms of snaps. Like, if you look at his snaps, he played 40% snaps, 47% snaps in New York, and then he ended up playing, I guess about the same, but he was more of a starter in Jacksonville. But he was more productive in New York. And the reason I bring that up is that Robert Saleh was partly there in New York, and DeMeco Ryans is now the head coach of the Texans. They both run similar schemes, both from San Francisco, etc. So there's an easy fit there in terms of scheme fit. And his numbers aren't going to impress you because he doesn't rush the quarterback. He's a run stuffer. Nothing else have to be said there. 1-year deal for him. Then the final move the Texans made today, they made 4. Linebacker, Azeez Al-Shaair, former 49er. 3-year deal, $34 million. Big fan of Azeez. He's one of the most underrated linebackers in football. He has been for a while. He was the Niners' 3rd linebacker for 3 or 4 years, and ultimately got his chance, his crack at a starting gig in Tennessee, and had his best season of his career. 17 games last year, 17 starts, 2 sacks, 163 tackles, which I don't know if that's like leading the league, but that is really good. And that's a lot. 4 passes defensed, 2 sacks, I said, and then a 97.4 passer rating allowed. In San Francisco, he has started quite a few games because of injuries and stuff like that, but 9 starts the year before that, 13 the year before that. 2021 looked to be a pretty good year for him. 1 interception, 2 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, 102 tackles. But what I like about the player, he is fast. He's sideline to sideline. He is no nonsense. He hits you hard. He flies around. He makes your defense a lot faster. He makes your defense fast. And you got to love that about a linebacker. So, in classic 49er fashion. And then D'Amico, obviously will know him from San Francisco. Obviously knows his strengths, his weaknesses, what he can get away with. And he's a replacement for Blake Cashman and probably an upgrade over Blake Cashman. He was the 50th graded linebacker in football last year, according to PFF. 19th the year previous in D'Amico Ryan's defense. So, there you go. Texans. What's up, John? What'd the Bruins do, bro? Why is Cobra Kai talking about the Bruins, bro? Cobra Kai, go fight Johnny Lawrence or something. Who's on my fantasy team right now? Kyle Connor got a goal. Rob Thomas got a goal. Okay. The Wings are struggling without Larkin. The Wings stink, bro. Hot Take says, hey, man, would be curious to see you make a video on who you want the Pats to draft the quarterback rankings if you haven't done it yet. I haven't. It'd be cool to see Rourke play. We'll see Rourke play in the preseason. We'll see what he has. I'm intrigued by that, but he's probably a backup. But in terms of who I want them to draft, I'll definitely do the videos I did last year for the quarterbacks, and I'll probably steer it in some sort of biased Patriot direction because obviously my team has a high draft pick. But got to put my charger on so I don't lose this. We've got Cardinals, Rams, Commanders. 3 remaining. Let's go with the Cards for the Big Bird man, Big Al. So, see, can I? All right, first, these are a lot of low-key signings, the Cardinals. Bargain shop in here, the Cardinals. Let's get... Oh, Kinlaw signed with the Jets. Jets are going late night shopping. The city that never sleeps. All right. The Arizona Cardinals may have not made the headlines of free agency on day one, but certainly added some productive players to specifically their defense in the secondary and in the front 7. Adding multiple pieces to Jonathan Gannon's defense for 2024 and beyond. That begins with my guy, Super Bowl champ Sean Murphy-Bunting. 3-year, $17.4 million deal. Very solid deal. After being a starter in Tennessee and a starter for a couple seasons in Tampa Bay, Sean Murphy-Bunting is 26 years old, turning 27 in June. He started 14 games last year for Tennessee, 57 tackles, which is the second most of his career, 2 picks. 8 passes defense is tied for his career high. He also started 10 games as a rookie in 2019, 13 games in the Super Bowl championship season with Tampa Bay in 2020, 8 games in 2021. And in terms of coverage, he's a player that has good size, 6 foot, 195, good length, able to play zone, able to play a hint of man. He's got good versatility to him where he can play slot or outside. He's played slot in Tampa a lot, and then he also played outside a lot in Tennessee, and then later in Tampa. He's a player that I would say is better in zone than he is in man. But, there are moments in his career where he's been pretty good in man coverage. And I think that's why they probably like him, because he can do a little bit of both. He can play inside, he can play outside, but he's also probably more of a zone guy, which Gannon is more of a zone defense. 89th in his PFF grade last year. He did have a very high run defense grade. He did have a very high pass rushing grade for last season. He played 840 snaps, which is almost double any corner on the roster for the Cardinals. The next free agent is Justin Jones, who was a starter for the Bears defense last year at defensive tackle. He agreed to terms with the Cardinals, 3 years, $30.1 million, 19.75 guaranteed. This seemed like an overpay on the surface. I'm not a huge Justin Jones guy. He has never, been a great player in my opinion, but he's started a lot. He's played a lot. He's somebody that just coaches seem to like a lot. I don't really know. But he was 107th in PFF grade last year at defensive tackle. 740 snaps, which, again, the most snaps of anyone among this position, including Bilal Nichols, who was also signed by the Cardinals today. He has never graded particularly well from a Pro Football Focus standpoint. He's 6'3", 309. Part of that is probably because he's more of a run defender, and it's hard to gauge that. He is not the best pass rusher in the world. He did have 4.5 sacks this year, which was his career high. He did have 10 tackles for loss, second best of his career, 17 quarterback hits, best of his career. So, best pass rushing season of his career with the Bears. And he was on a very good defense with the Bears last year. He was also, I will say this, in a situation with the Chargers where he was maybe underutilized or utilized incorrectly, which maybe he's a better fit for somewhere like the Cardinals, potentially. So Justin Jones, going to be a at least rotation player for the Cardinals, if not a starter for them this year. Bilal Nichols, 3-year, $21 million deal, 14.4 guaranteed with the Cardinals. Interesting that Nichols got less than Jones. Now, I think that Jones had a better year this year, but I think Nichols has been looked at as the better player. It's also interesting that both of them have played for Chicago. That's also interesting to me. I don't know the background in terms of the crossover there, but that is interesting. Nichols played for the Raiders last year. He had a touchdown, a fumble, forced fumble, 1.5 sacks last year. His best season of his career was in 2020 with 5 sacks with Chicago. 48 tackles last year was the second best of his career. Another big run stuffing guy. Last year played 54% of the snaps for the Raiders, 71 the year previous. He's a solid player. Another rotation guy for the Cardinals to look up. Like, when I say this, though, you have to take into account who they've had previously. Like, Nichols and Jones are way better than the guys they had last year. It's not even close. They didn't even have NFL starting caliber players. This is just raising the floor of what you were last year. Like Dante Stills, Roy Lopez, LJ Collier. Like, these guys are way better than those guys. So this raises the floor of your defense pretty significantly. Then the last signing, which is my favorite, is Mack Wilson from the New England Patriots, signing a 3-year, $12.75 million worth up to $15 million Mac Wilson is underrated. Mac Wilson is a good player. I like Mac Wilson a lot. He's super athletic. I think he's a great fit for Jonathan Gannon's defense. He's really athletic. He can move really well. He's 6'1", 246. He's good in coverage. He played on passing downs for New England this past year. He also played on the edge a little bit and was a really productive, sneaky blitzer and pass rusher near the end of the year where he made a lot of plays for them. He had 3.5 sacks last year, which was the most of his career, 37 tackles, which was pretty good, and wasn't a starter. He's a rotation player. Yeah, I mean, and the most pressures of his career. He's a really good special teams player as well. He has a really good attitude. He is from Alabama, drafted from Alabama. He's only 26 years old, and he just turned 26, so he's very young. And I could see him being a starter for the Cardinals at linebacker in that system. I think he could play alongside Kaiser White in the middle of that defense, and I wouldn't be surprised. Good player. Good player. So those are the Cardinals. Congratulations to your signings. Anthony says, yo, what's good? Hey, if you read the chat, what's the best website that you use to get the live updates? Twitter, brother. X. Follow Schefter. Follow Rappaport. Follow all the guys. All the guys on the X. And then you'll get all the updates. That's what you do. That's what I do. There are websites, if you look it up on Google, like the latest signings, but it's easier on X. You'll get all the alerts. That's the best way. The only way, in my opinion. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't already, guys. We got 2 teams. Actually, we might have to add the Jets because they've signed multiple people now, and I hate them for it. Because I want to go to bed or something, bro. Okay. Nick Allegretti signed with the Commanders. Oh, I can add another Commander thing without having to do it again. That's dope. Ben, do you want to do the analysis on Nick Allegretti? The Rams are up. We got to talk about the Rams. They only made 2 moves, though. Okay. The Jets signed 2 people, right? Who was the second? Oh yeah, Kinlaw. We don't know the compensation yet though. So that sucks. Okay. Let's do the Rams. The Rams or just do the Commies? I guess I could do the Rams. Why not? Let's do the Rams. Okay. Anyone still here? About 36 people, but yet none of them are commenting. That's odd. All right. Oh boy. I would love to be Matthew Stafford right about now. Because Matthew Stafford has himself a really nice offensive line, specifically in the interior of the offensive line. Jonah Jackson of the Detroit Lions has signed with the Los Angeles Rams. One of the first moves of the day. 3-year, $51 million deal, $34 million guaranteed. He is joined by Kevin Dotson, who already re-signed with the Rams. That is one of the best guard combos in the NFL. Right there. Flat out. Rams, doing your thing. I mean, I love this. I love this. The best way for the Rams to take that next step is by increasing their productivity of the run game, led by Williams, and then protecting Matthew Stafford, making sure that he is insured, making sure that he is secure, and making sure he has time to throw, make plays, and get down the field, because that's what the Rams love to do. And having a secure interior of the pocket is exactly how you protect Stafford, because he's a pocket passer. He's a guy that needs to step into his throws, move and manipulate the middle of the pocket, and having good guards is how you secure that for him. On top of that, they paid a tight end, a really promising tight end from the Seahawks. Kobe Parkinson on a 3-year, $22.5 million deal that includes $15.5 guaranteed. He's really athletic. He's got some upside to him. He wasn't a starter in Seattle, but I could see him doing very well for the Rams because he is 25 years old. He's still a baby in this sport, turning 26 not until next year. And when you look at tight ends, they often don't break out until their mid to later 20s, right? So Parkinson last year had 25 catches for 322 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 2023, he had 25 catches for 247 yards and 2 touchdowns. So basically the same numbers 2 years in a row. And with Tyler Higbee being injured for I don't even know how long, but the beginning of next year, Kobe Parkinson could be a guy that could take the opportunity and run with it. At 6'7", 251 pounds, he possesses pretty rare athleticism for his size. And he could see some opportunity there with the Rams in an offense that he's familiar with, because Shane Waldron was there previously with Seattle, which ran some sort of variation of the Sean McVay system. Jonah Jackson, though, getting back to him, absolute stud. He is 27 years old, just turning 27 in February. He is a one-time Pro Bowler in 2021. He has missed a few games the past 2 years, which maybe the Lions didn't like about him. But he's been a very good player throughout the course of his career. When we look at the guard rankings in terms of PFF, he was the 34th best guard on the season this year, 27th the year before, and 24th the year before that. So a very good guard, talented player, especially in the run game. Really good in the run game. And really active, tough, physical, can get there quickly. I think he's a good fit for the zone running scheme of McVay, and perhaps even help him in some of his deficiencies of pass blocking, which would be, I guess, his weakness, although he's not really weak in any area. He's just a good player. So love the signings by the Rams in terms of the potential at tight end and the security of Matthew Stafford at guard. Any idea what will happen with Zach Wilson? He could go to the Rams. I don't know, man. Vikings? I don't know, man. Niners? I don't know. I don't know, bro. Zach Wilson, I hope that Zach Wilson season rains upon us once again, but I don't know where it will be, though. Also, shout out to Anthony and Caesar, who said that they were still here. Zappy is going to be released by New England. Is that actually true? No, I think that's a parody. I would have laughed, though. All right. Let's do the last one, which is the commies. I could also do DeAndre Swift to the Bears. I didn't do that, but that's the only signing that they made today. So I was maybe thinking of just carrying that over into tomorrow, if they sign anyone tomorrow. Expectations for the Packers, they're high. They're high. I would say if they don't at least win one playoff game, I'll be disappointed. That'd be my expectations. I don't expect them to win the Super Bowl, but... Okay. Commanders. We've got a bunch of players to talk about here. Holy smokes. Okay, Dorrance Armstrong is one of them. That's Caesar's boy, Dorrance Armstrong, bro. What are you going to do without Dorrance Armstrong? The man on the moon. Follow-up question. Will the Lions or the Packers have a better season? Right now, I'd say the Lions, but I feel like it could go either way. I wouldn't be shocked by either. Frankie Louvu, Austin Eckler. Holy smokes, this team signed everybody. What do I even do with that? Okay. Frankie Louvu. Frankie Louvu is a great signing. All right, let's finish this baby off, guys. Wow. Washington. You commanded this free agency. Dan Quinn made his mark, and the Commanders have come out on top. Big-time winners. I give you a W for your efforts. They have signed a new center. They have signed an edge rusher, another big need. They signed a running back. They signed an awesome linebacker, what I'm pumped to talk about. They signed an underrated guard. They did it all. They did it all, the Commanders. And let's begin with my favorite signing of the entire bunch. That is Frankie Louvu, linebacker of the Carolina Panthers, signs a 3-year deal with the Commanders for a max value of $36 million. In my opinion, the best linebacker on the market. 27 years old, going to be 28 in September. He is a beast. This past season, 5.5 sacks, 125 tackles, 11 quarterback hits. Last year, 7 sacks, 111 tackles. That is, for a middle linebacker, 12.5 sacks in 2 years. He is a former edge rusher, which makes him a dangerous asset to a defense when you can play coverage and you can also rush the quarterback. He's affecting the passing game in a unique fashion. In terms of his grade this past season for Carolina, Frankie Louvu was the 10th best linebacker in football according to PFF. 80 run defense, or 80 overall grade, 74 run defense grade, 90 pass rush grade, and 67.7 coverage grade. The past 2 seasons, he has ranked 16th and 10th at the linebacker position. He has played 873 plays in the box, 83 on the defensive line. He was the best pass rushing linebacker in football last year, according to PFF, at 6'3", 235. Frankie Louvu can do it all. And what I love about this addition is he is big enough to stop the run and come downhill and make those plays. He's good enough to play at the end of the line of scrimmage as an edge player in certain formations and gives you a vibe of Micah Parsons within Dan Quinn's defense. I'm not saying he's Micah Parsons. He's not as fast or twitchy or as quick, but he's a linebacker who can play edge, right? And Parsons was so good at edge that they just kept him there, right? But the whole idea of Parsons was Louvu, that idea of linebacker edge, kind of like a Dante Hightower type of guy, right? But then he's also good in coverage, which is rare for a linebacker of his size. So he's going to be able to do everything in this defense for this team, and that's why I love this signing so much. The next signing is Dorrance Armstrong, a Dallas Cowboy. 3-year, $45 million max value. This is a Dan Quinn favorite. Dorrance Armstrong still on the rise. I believe he had his best season of his career last year. He is 6'4", 255, 26 years old, turning 27 in June. Dorrance Armstrong has been in the NFL for, it feels like, a minute, but he's only 27. He has had 16 sacks over the past 2 years, 8.5 in 2022 and 7.5 in 2023. Both playing 17 games in both seasons. Now, that being said, he has not been a starter. So thinking of starting snaps, right? He has not been a starter. He is a rotation player, but he's still been able to put up 16 sacks in 2 years. And the year before that, he had 5. So he's actually had 21 sacks in 3 years, which is 7 per season. So Dorrance Armstrong, what I like about him, he's got good length. He's got good size. I think he uses that length to get around the corner very well. And more of a pass rusher, I would say, than a run defender for sure. And they've treated him that way in Dallas. But I could see him becoming a full-time player in Washington because of the need that they have. He fulfills a huge need for them. They got rid of Montez Sweat and Chase Young. He's the best edge rusher on the team right now. 468 snaps for them at that position. He ranked 49th according to PFF. He had a 69.7 pass rush grade and a 51.8 run defense grade. So his run defense grade was far worse, 74th in the NFL. His pass rush grade was 47th. So, yeah, like I said, better pass rusher than run defender. Productive player, though, and knows the defense and can play within it. The next player is the biggest name among the bunch. That is Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is now 28, turning 29. And it's crazy because he looks like he's 38. But Austin Ekeler played 14 games last year. And honestly, if I'm being honest with you guys, I think he's washed. But I still think that he brings certain things that are valuable to the NFL game. He's a good pass catcher. He's a good pass blocker. He's a really hard worker. And you watch the workouts and you're like, wow, this guy's still friggin' athletic. So you look at Austin Ekeler and you say, he is not a very good runner, nor has he ever been a great runner. But this past year was his worst, 3.5 yards per carry. The year before, 4.5, 4.4, 4.6, 4.2, 5.2, 5.5. And last year, you'll watch the tape and you'll say, why is he getting caught from behind by a linebacker? Why is he getting caught behind from an edge rusher? Why is he getting caught behind? Why is he getting caught behind? Why is he getting caught behind? He looks slow on the field is my point. But he was still productive, 628 yards, 5 touchdowns, 51 catches, 436 yards through the air. And he can catch the football. He's a great route runner. He's always, making magic. And 107 catches in 2022 is insane. 90, is he at 90? 92 in 2019, 70 in 2021, 51 this past year. But he did miss 3 games, so keep that in mind. So wear and tear is definitely coming on his smaller body, right? He's 5'10", 200. He looks like he's 5'6" on the football field. But Ekeler is probably going to need a backfield mate, and I believe that is Robinson, but we'll see what the Washington Commanders decide to do and employ him in what type of way. But in terms of the spread system and in terms of the air raid system that Cliff Kingsbury runs, it's a fascinating fit for sure. Spread him and shred him. Ekeler can be that guy out of the backfield. And then the final signing that the Commanders made might have been the best one if you ask a Chief fan. And if you ask a Chief fan, they would tell you that Nick Allegretti is an MVP of the Super Bowl. Nick Allegretti, 3-year, $16 million deal, $9 million guaranteed. Their new starting left guard. I told you guys they like offensive linemen from the Chiefs. They signed Andrew Wiley last year. Now, I thought they would sign Donovan Smith. I guess I was just wrong about which offensive lineman it would be. But Nick Allegretti can play, and he proved that last year. In terms of his PFF stuff. So let's see if he actually comes up on here. Is he still under the Chiefs? Let me see. Maybe he didn't qualify for enough snaps because he mostly played in the playoffs. Okay, so he didn't qualify to be ranked, but he had 253 snaps, a 65.8 grade, which is solid, a 73.7 pass blocking grade, which is about top 15 in the NFL. So really underrated player. The only reason he didn't get more money is he has not played very much. 2021, he was a very good player. An 81.8 grade, which is very good. Last year, he wasn't very good in his limited play, but overall, he has only been graded once in his career, which was 31st out of 80 in 2020. So he's a former 7th-round pick. He is 27, turning 28 in April, and he's going to get a chance to start. And I think he's a good addition for cheap. $16 million on 3 years for a starting guard is solid when you consider this market. So, yeah, good moves by Washington. Think they hit home runs really across the board. I think a lot of these moves are awesome. Eckler, I'm a little bit suspect because he's old, but love Luvu. Oh, I forgot one. Tyler Biadasz. How did I almost forget about the center? I'm sorry about that, Cardinals, or not Cardinals fans. I'm thinking of the Cardinals because Cliff Kingsbury. Commanders fans. Tyler Biadasz. 6'3", 316, 26 years old. Will be 27 in November. He played 17, 16, 16 games 3 years in a row. He was a Pro Bowl center at 25 years old in 2022. He is a good center. He was, I believe, the 14th graded center in football last year and has progressed with every season of his career. 18th in 2021, 25th in 2022, 14th in 2023. So last year was his best year, 2021 his second best year. But I would say he's a better pass blocker than run blocker most of the time. And that's a good thing. And he moves well as well. He's also tough. He brings the pain. So now I can say, Commanders fans, congrats on your signings, and thank you for watching. All right, that's the Commanders, guys. And I think I'm going to finish it here. Let me see. I think there was another signing. Can they just stop, bro? How would I rank the NFC East? Eagles. No, I don't know. Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants. No, Giants, Commanders. I guess because the Commanders don't have a quarterback. Yeah. I could talk about Kenneth Murray because I talked about the Titans. Let's see. Let's see. I could talk about Kenneth Murray just really quickly, so I could put him in the video. If there's a video, but I don't know. I don't know, bro. Let me see. Maybe I could wait for them to have more signings tomorrow. And just add that tomorrow. All right, guys. Yeah, that's what I'll probably do. You'll see if they get any more signings. But thank you guys for watching tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time because of Bleacher Report. I know I have a stream for sure at noon Pacific, but I'm also not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure if they're going to ask me for more streams, which they probably will. So I'll probably be on there probably 3 times again, 2 or 3 times. And then I'll probably do the nightcap again and just post these videos throughout the night and tomorrow. Probably. That's probably the plan. But yeah, that's it. I think I'll post chapters when I can for this video. But appreciate everybody tuning in. And yeah, it was awesome. So thanks. All right, see you guys. See ya, Steve. See ya, Sing. See ya, Caesar. See ya, Big Al and company. Peace, guys. Gronk, spike the like button. Deuces.